Tonight, I know we have some exciting things to happen with some certain presentations we have tonight. We have some special guests here in the audience as well. And so let us begin. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. Sorry about the experience here. That we're sort of in transition because of our city hall, but at least the Broward Center is kind enough and generous enough to accommodate us here in this beautiful Huizinga Hall. So thank you so much, Broward Center and Kelly Shanley. And so as we begin our meetings, we start with our Pledge of Allegiance, and then we have a moment of silence and various other administrative tasks. So if I can ask you to please join me and stand and do our Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. Please be seated. Normally at this time we have a moment of silence, but tonight, in addition to the moment of silence, I also would like us to recognize the passing away of a longtime city employee in our fire department, Gwen Bass-Camp, who passed away this past week in a very tragic loss to our community. So if you could please join me in that moment of silence. Okay, thank you. I now ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Herbst?
Here.
Commissioner Glassman?
Here.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Here.
Commissioner Sturman?
Here.
Mayor Trentalis?
Here. Full attendance. We have a couple of agenda announcements. M2 in the CAM was revised to correct the dollar amount of the task order throughout the memo. And in the minutes, April 4th, 2023, the commission conference meeting, the word island was added on page 10. Was that your contribution, Commissioner Glassman?
No? Yes, it was.
Oh,
Thank you,
okay.
Mayor. That's actually in a couple of places on page 10, but that's okay.
All right.
It was added twice.
And then two places, okay. And then April 18th, 2023, commission conference meeting, a 0 was added on page 7.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any other changes or suggestions regarding the minutes or the agenda for tonight?
Regarding the agenda, the minutes from April 4th.
April 4th, yes, ma'am.
Given reference to the discussion that included the increase for funding for Carter Park, Summer Jams, and it listed Starlight Musical at Riverland, and that's not the name of the event.
Right.
Okay, so we need the corrections to show Friday Night Musical in Spanish. I can't pronounce the name, but it is Spanish, Friday Night Musical. And then-
Musicales Viernes.
Thank you very
What is it?
much.
Musicales
See, I knew you had my back.
Viernes.
Yes. And then also, correction needed for the April 18th discussion, when giving the locations of where the floodings were in the District 3, it was noted as southwest. Every indication should be northwest 22nd
So
Road.
all references to flooding in those neighborhoods should be referencing the northwest, not southwest.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or changes? Are there being none, would someone like to introduce the motion to accept the agenda and the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded?
Mayor, we also had the walk-ons on there on the next thing. To add to the agenda.
That's for the agenda. Okay, so we have, all right, with regard, well, then let's just let the motion refer to the minutes. We'll do a separate one for the agenda. So this motion that you had just made, Commissioner Glassman, was for just those minutes as amended and seconded by Vice Mayor, correct? Just the minutes. Okay, let's just move on that first.
Commissioner
And then
Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and those minutes are now approved as amended. So now we'll go to the agenda. As I previously indicated, the M2 CAM was revised to correct the dollar amount of the task order throughout the memo. PH3, the applicant is requesting to withdraw their application from consideration at this meeting. And we have a walk-on, two walk-ons. One is a motion approving an interlocal agreement between Broward County and the City of Fort Lauderdale for property located at 1000 Southwest 2 Street in substantially the form provided. And we also have another walk-on for a motion approving a music exemption, alcohol, and road closure for Riverwalk to host the City of Fort Lauderdale Riverwalk Panther Watch Party. Any other changes to the agenda? There being none, would someone like to move the item to accept the agenda as amended?
Moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and the agenda is now approved as amended. So tonight, we will begin our meeting, as we often do, with presentations. What are presentations? Presentations are the City Commission's recognition of people or events, and that's usually how we begin our meetings. But before we do that, as I indicated previously, we have two special guests tonight. And we have Senators Jason Pizzo and Senator Rosalind Osgood, who will give us a short presentation and discussion regarding the legislative accomplishments, if we can call them that, of this past session. Let's hear it for Senators Pizzo and Rosalind Osgood. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners,
Thank you for being here tonight. We very much appreciate both of you attending.
Thank you for having us tonight, and I'm here with my colleague, Senator Pizzo, who represents the other side of Fort Lauderdale, and the east side of Fort Lauderdale. And I think that we had a great legislative session. You should have gotten one of these handouts which shows the appropriations that were specifically requested for the City of Fort Lauderdale District 32 to the tune of $1,076,836. And I am proud to say that right now, all of those appropriations are in the budget. Of course, there's another part of the process that somebody gets to go to and veto. On the back of the other appropriations from District 32, collectively, that's to the tune of around $10 million. I had a great legislative session working across the aisle to make sure that you got your needs met. I'll just briefly talk about one piece of legislation two that I worked on that I'm very, very proud of, and I apologize to my young people because you're not going to like this, but it's needed. So social media came, and we just turned our kids over to social media. So during this session, we passed a bill that will prohibit young people from using social media while in school. I believe that it will help with bullying, it would help with fighting, it will help with a lot of stress and anxiety that children have because they have access to social media while they're in school. Now, you'll still be able to communicate with them for safety reasons, but they won't have access to social media. And the second one is the Live Local bill. I had the opportunity to chair the Community Affairs Committee this legislative session. The Live Local bill is really going to give us a great jump start in dealing with the housing issues as we now have money in the Sadowski Fund. We have more money for sale and ship, and incentives for developers. So keep your eyes on those two pieces of legislation. And I know there was a whole bunch of legislation that we didn't like. And we'll come back and talk to you about what we need to do. We want all of the persons that want to carry their guns to have them. But in closing, I will say, if you have young people in your house or in your car, I'm begging you, please lock the guns up. Don't try to hide them. They will find them. They know that they're there. You have to practice gun safety and use gun locks, because if they take the guns to school, even to do show and tell, they're going to get arrested in school. So as adults, with exercising our Second Amendment rights, we have to do it with responsibility and make sure that we always think about the safety of our kids first. Thank you.
I will be ever so brief. I'm the guy you call in the middle of the night when something goes wrong. So I do want to thank your city manager. The mid-April, we're texting back and forth, and we were able to help, I think, a little bit coordinate a response with a number of cities. These districts have changed. So I didn't represent you last year. My district was to the south, but Surfside was in my district. So we got a crash course in tragedy and trying to help others. We're going to have a number of town halls, a series of town halls. I've had 3 just in the past week. And they're going to range from everything from condos to property insurance to any number of things. A number of bills actually died again this year. Those include short-term rental, which may be of some interest because they became increasingly sort of invasive. The 2 senators standing here are incredibly mindful to the value of local home rule. That those that govern closest know best, and so we continue to try to push towards that. But again, just look for a number of town halls we'll be having, and if you have your phones out, which I know you do, my cell phone number is 305-505-8478, 305-505-8478. This is supposed to be a part-time legislature. It's not. It's a full-time job, and you guys all deserve it, and especially in these times we need it. So thank you very much, and look for those town halls in your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Senators. And don't be a stranger. We'd love to see you both. Thank you. So tonight we have a few presentations, and it's my honor to begin the process tonight with our first presentation. I am going to present a proclamation declaring April 23rd, 2023 as International Children's Day in the city of Fort Lauderdale. And what this means is we will be presenting certificates to the winners of the Greater Fort Lauderdale Sister Cities, Inc. and the Florida Turkish American Association's 2023 essay competition entitled If I Were Mayor. So, something I should read up on, right? So if I could invite, well, I've got a number of people to invite, but I first like, is Jana Ozaktai in the audience? Please come up to the podium. So what we do every year for the past 10 years now is that the City of Fort Lauderdale has collaborated with Sister Cities International, and Russ, you want to come up here also? And Sister Cities International to recognize students who have participated and who became recognized through certificates we're going to distribute tonight as winners of this competition, and it's part of the International Children's Day. So I have the certificates. Who has the certificates? They're right here? Okay, very good. So let me first read the proclamation. They're here. Great, thank you. I'll first read the proclamation, which goes as follows. Oops. From the Office of the Mayor of the City of Fort Lauderdale, this proclamation in recognition of Children's Day, April 23rd, 2023. Whereas in 1921, Turkey proclaimed April 23rd as Children's Day, declaring that power rests with the people and the future belongs to the children. And every year since 1921, the children in Turkey celebrate Children's Day as a national holiday with various festivities and programs. Inspired by this Turkish holiday, UNESCO declared April 23rd, 1979 as the International Year of the Child, and UNICEF decided to recognize this important day as the International Children's Day, a day of worldwide fraternity and understanding between children. Observing April 23rd as Children's Day will promote the welfare of the children not only in the city of Fort Lauderdale, but also in the world as a day of activity devoted just for them. I thought every day was Children's Day, but so my mother used to tell me. Whereas Americans of Turkish descent in the city of Fort Lauderdale have played a significant role in the educational, cultural, economic, and civic development of our community. And finally, whereas we recognize the many individuals of Turkish descent who have chosen our community as their home and who share their rich heritage with us. Now, therefore, we, as the City Commissioners of the City of Fort Lauderdale, do hereby proclaim April 23, 2023 as Children's Day in the City of Fort Lauderdale, and do encourage our neighbors to join the Turks and Turkish Americans as they celebrate Children's Day. Dated April 13, 2023, signed by myself, Dean Trantalis, and congratulations. Happy International Children's Day. Yes. Let me hand these out. You want to say a few words? Say a few words?
I'm the president of the Florida Turkish American Association, and we thank sister cities of Fort Lauderdale for this opportunity. It's very important to us and the children. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Russ, you want to say a few words?
Hi, on behalf of Greater Fort Lauderdale Sister Cities, it's an honor to be a part of this great event. Our sister city in Turkey is Muğla, Turkey, and the Florida Turkish American Association is our partner that makes this event happen. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our chairwoman for Turkey, Ms. Sedat Thuran.
Thank you, Russell. Hello and good evening, everyone. I'm Sedat Surhan, chairwoman of the Greater Fort Lauderdale Sister Cities International, Muğla, Turkey, and a Florida Turkish American Association board member. I cannot believe almost a year passed since we met last year at Fort Lauderdale City Hall, and we are excited and ready to recognize our children for their hard work once more tonight. Before starting my essay contest topic, I would like to thank Mr. Trantalis and the City Commission for putting on the annual If I Were Mayor essay contest. Thanks to all participating schools, principals, teachers, students, and parents. And thanks to Canan Özaktay, Florida Turkish American Association, for joining us tonight. And finally, I want to thank my sisters team, dear Zeynep, Russell, Müge, and for their continued support. Let me talk about our journey a little bit. So it started 13 years ago on April 23, 2011. Mayor of the City of Fort Lauderdale proclaimed April 23rd to be celebrated as Children's Day in the City of Fort Lauderdale. Members of Greater Fort Lauderdale Sister Cities International, Muğla, Turkey, and members of the Florida Turkish American Association have organized this contest successfully with the City of Fort Lauderdale for so many years. As an organization, Greater Fort Lauderdale Sister Cities International is particularly interested in programs fostering cultural diversity and friendship among the world's youth. As Sister City Muğla, Turkey country chair and co-chairs, we desire to turn this proclamation announced by our mayor into reality and take action towards organizing a series of activities intended to create awareness of International Children's Day to promote a sense of unity among children. In honor of our long-standing and continuing relationship with the City of Fort Lauderdale, we always appreciate everything you do to make this annual contest a lifetime memory, especially for the students and their families. We cannot thank you enough for your time to put this event. And I don't want to keep our students waiting anymore. Let's talk about essays. All entries displayed good effort and deep thinking and reflect how conscientious students are in writing their thoughts. Finally, we extend our heartfelt appreciation to all the teachers for their time and efforts in guiding their students through this process. I'm pleased to share the winners of the 2023 If I Were Mayor essay contest, and at the end, I will share the overall winner. So congratulations to Mercan Oflu, Pembroke Pines Charter Elementary Schoolist. And I want to remind you, they're all fifth graders in elementary schools. Letitia Mo Onyewumbu, Tradewinds Elementary School. I don't want to rush so you can hear all the names. Eric Bellman, Northcrest Elementary School. Clara Nelson, Virginia Schumann Young Montessori School. Muriel Ocampo Hartman, Noah Eisenhower Elementary School. Yes, Muriel Ocampo Hartman, Noah Eisenhower Elementary School. And Mariah Ricks, North Fork Elementary School. Unfortunately, Mariah got sick, and on behalf of Mariah, Theodore Campo, Assistant Principal of North Fork Elementary School, will receive the trophy and certificate. Anna Zambrano, Bennett Elementary School. And the last one, Lillian Pearl Zeman, Bayview Elementary School. And just a second. And I would like to announce that our overall winner this year, our overall winner this year, Tradewinds Elementary School, Letitia Mo Onyewumbu. Congratulations to all our winners, and again, many thanks to our mayor and his team, for especially dear Daphne, Amber, and Zoe, to make our students feel so special. Thank you.
I think we're losing our audience. My next proclamation is with regard to declaring June 2nd, 2023 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I'd like to ask Moms Demand Action, Christina Rodriguez, Julie Morale, Barbara Markley, Nancy Fry, and Susan El Sheikh to please come to the podium with me. So from the Office of the Mayor of the City of Fort Lauderdale, it's my honor to present this proclamation in recognition of National Gun Violence Awareness Day, June 2nd, 2023. Whereas on average of 120 Americans are killed by gun violence, and 200 more are wounded each day in the United States. Annually, there are nearly 17,000 gun homicides in the United States and approximately 3,000 in the state of Florida alone. And whereas, according to a survey of global homicide rates, Americans are 26 times more likely to be a victim of gun violence than people who live in other high-income countries. And whereas cities across the nation, including Fort Lauderdale, are working to end senseless violence with evidence-based solutions, National Gun Violence Awareness Day was inspired by friends of Hadia Pendleton, a 15-year-old who was tragically shot and killed in Chicago in 2013, shortly after marching in President Obama's second inaugural parade. Whereas on June 2nd, 2023, will mark what would have been Hadia Pendleton's 26th birthday. To honor her life, we encourage our Fort Lauderdale neighbors to wear orange. This is as close as I got. The color was chosen by her friends because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when in the woods, and orange symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas National Gun Violence Awareness Day asks everyone who believes we can do more to reduce gun violence to come together to raise awareness and honor the lives of the victims and survivors of gun violence by wearing orange this June 2nd, 2023. Finally, the City of Fort Lauderdale remains committed to doing its part to reduce gun violence, keep firearms out of the wrong hands, and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now, therefore, we, as City Commissioners of the City of Fort Lauderdale, do hereby proclaim June 2nd, 2023 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day here in our city, and encourage all who support efforts to prevent the tragic events of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Signed by myself, Dean Trantalis, Mayor of the city. Congratulations, and would you like to say a few words?
All right. Good evening. My name is Nancy Fry, and I'm a volunteer with the Broward Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. I would like to thank Mayor Trantalis and the Fort Lauderdale City Commission on behalf of Moms Demand Action for issuing this proclamation declaring Friday, June 2nd, 2023 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. That being said, after the recent news from Nashville, Louisville, and frankly, most everywhere, if we need a proclamation to make us aware of the gun violence plaguing our country, then we aren't paying attention. As the mayor stated, the first Friday in June has been declared National Gun Violence Awareness Day in honor of Hadia Pendleton, an honor student who was tragically shot and killed at the age of 15. On this day, we will commemorate her life and the lives of all the victims and survivors of gun violence by wearing orange. Today, we ask you and everyone listening to make a note on your calendar to wear orange in honor of gun violence victims and survivors on Friday, June 2nd, which would have been Hadia's 25th birthday. We know we are all safer when firearms are stored unloaded, locked, and separate from ammunition. Our Be Smart campaign explains that gun owners don't need to choose between storing guns securely and maintaining quick access to them. Ultimately, secure gun storage prevents children and other at-risk people from accessing guns. When we protect our most vulnerable citizens from the dangers of unintentional shootings or self-harm, the whole community benefits. Please go to besmartforkids.org to learn more. And Mr. City Manager, Mayor, Commissioners, we would welcome the opportunity to partner with the city to make the information in this program more widely available to all of our residents here. Additionally, the League of Women Voters has joined us tonight and will be handing out gun locks and bumper stickers to anyone that needs one. So please feel free to find them, or they will find you to get either a bumper sticker or a gun lock. Again, thank you to the City of Fort Lauderdale for declaring June 2nd as National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
Thank you. Our next presentation, I'd like to invite Commissioner Warren Sturman to present a proclamation declaring May 2023 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the city of Fort Lauderdale. And I'd like to invite Mr. Joseph Mustafer of NAMI to please come to the podium. Is he here? Joseph? Oh, there you are. No. There you go. Nope. Yeah, you're on now. Okay.
Are we on right now? Allow me to read this proclamation. In recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month, May 2023, whereas the mission of National Alliance on Mental Health of Broward County is to raise awareness and create programs in local communities to support world-class treatment and recovery systems for people suffering from mental illness. Whereas 1 in 5 adults will experience mental illness every year. Whereas mental illness is a medical condition which is common and treatable. Whereas comprehensive health care includes coverage for mental illness, which should be accessible to or available to all people regardless of age, race, gender, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic status. Whereas individuals with mental illness are disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system. Whereas the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Broward County observes the month of May to raise awareness about mental illness. And whereas the City of Fort Lauderdale recognizes that good mental health is critical to the well-being of our families, communities, schools, and businesses. Now, therefore, we, as Commissioners of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the City of Fort Lauderdale, dated the 16th day of May, 2023, by our Mayor, the Honorable Dean Trantelis. Mr. Mustafer.
Thank you. On behalf of the local chapter of National Awareness of Mental Illness, also known as NAMI, I thank the mayor and the commissioner and city managers for inviting us and issuing the proclamation. For those of you that are not aware of NAMI, we're located in Plantation. We offer free peer counseling, free family counseling, free group counseling, and a host of other resources, all at no charge. So if you're interested, contact me or go to namibroward.org. And again, I thank you.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Now I'd like to invite Commissioner Stephen Glassman to present a proclamation declaring May 2023 as Jewish American Heritage Month in the city of Fort Lauderdale. I'd like to invite Rabbi Schneur Kaplan of the Downtown Jewish Center Chabad, Rabbi Noah Kitty, now retired from the congregation Etz Chaim, Rabbi David Spey of the Temple Bet Yam, Alan Tinter of the Jewish Federation Broward County board member, and Rabbi Zelig Arano of the Chabad Lubavitch of Fort Lauderdale. Please join us at the podium, gentlemen. And Noah, nice to see you.
Thank you. Come on, Rabbi. All right, he's here. Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm very proud to present this proclamation from the Office of the Mayor, City of Fort Lauderdale, in recognition of Jewish American Heritage Month, May 2023. Whereas Jewish immigrants arrived on our shores in the 17th century and have played an invaluable role in the creation, growth, freedom, prosperity, and strength of the United States. And whereas the biblical and contemporary history of the Jewish people and the enduring values of the Jewish faith were vital sources of inspiration for the founding of the United States, the civil rights movement, America's global leadership in the cause of freedom, Americans' commitment to social justice, and many of our country's core tenets. And whereas the American Jewish community dates back to 1654, when a group of 23 Jews fled persecution at the hands of the Portuguese Inquisition in Brazil and found refuge in New Amsterdam, now New York. From that tiny group, the American Jewish community has grown to approximately 7 million, about 2.4% of the United States population. And whereas through core Jewish beliefs, such as the creation of man in the image of God, the infinite value of every human life, the need for a weekly Sabbath, and the importance of education in the lives of children, the Jewish community has helped to define America's character and values. And whereas Jewish citizens of Fort Lauderdale play a central role in all aspects of our community, including serving in our armed forces and the Florida National Guard. And whereas following the rebirth of Zionism and the return of the Jewish people to the Jewish homeland, the United States was the first country in the world to recognize the State of Israel in 1948, and over the years has developed a deep friendship and unbreakable alliance with the State of Israel based upon shared values and mutual interests. And whereas the State of Israel is now celebrating the 75th anniversary of its modern founding and its emergence over the last few decades as a beacon of freedom and prosperity and a world leader in technology, agriculture, water conservation, medicine, and all manners of innovation. And whereas the city of Fort Lauderdale established a sister city relationship with Haifa, Israel, in 2002, and whereas for 42 years, every president of the United States has declared a period of time for celebrating the Jewish community's history, heritage, culture, and contributions to the United States. And since 2006, the month of May has been presidentially declared to be Jewish American Heritage Month, pursuant to a bipartisan resolution of Congress. Now, therefore, we, as city commissioners of the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Jewish American Heritage Month in the city of Fort Lauderdale, and dated this the 16th day of May 2023, and signed by our mayor, the Honorable Dean J. Trentalis. Who would like to speak? Someone like to say a few words? Rabbi? One of the rabbis like to say a few words? That's a crazy question. If you ask a bunch of rabbis if anyone would like to say a few words. But we do have a time constraint, just so you know. Thank you.
I wanted to thank the mayor and the city commission for this very, very special proclamation. As a number of representatives here of the Jewish community, we feel welcome. We feel part of the fabric of this incredible community. Actually, when I walked in here, it really stirred me because for the last many years, we've been holding our high holiday services in this very room. So it is a great, great community, and we look forward to doing incredible, incredible things. So thank you for this great proclamation. And one more short little snippet. I was talking to an officer before, Officer Scott. I didn't get his last name, but he was talking about coming from East Flatbush. And I said to him that my wife is fifth-generation American. My children, sixth. They came over at the turn of the century, and her grandfather led one of the largest Jewish congregations in East Flatbush. So everything all comes together so beautifully. So thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
Get a photo.
Never visited Flatbush, but I know, I never visited Flatbush. I've never visited Flatbush. Were you? I could tell by your accent. Our last presentation tonight, again, I'd like to ask Commissioner Glassman to present a proclamation declaring May 20th to 26th, 2023 as National Safe Boating Week in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Please ask Officer Karsten Herron, the Division Commander, and Division Commander Mark Brody, and Flotilla Vice Commander Peter Page, and Officer Joshua Cohen to please come to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. It's my pleasure to present this proclamation from the Office of the Mayor, City of Fort Lauderdale, in recognition of National Safe Boating Week, May 20th through 26th, 2023. Whereas, more than 100 million Americans from coast to coast enjoy taking to the water with families, friends, and neighbors to spend time together, boating, sailing, paddling, and fishing. And whereas during National Safe Boating Week, the U.S. Coast Guard and its federal, state, and local safe boating partners encourage all boaters to explore and enjoy America's beautiful waters responsibly. And whereas safe boating begins with preparation. The Coast Guard estimates that human error accounts for most boating accidents and that the use of life jackets could prevent more than 80% of boating fatalities. And whereas by following basic boating procedures, such as carrying life-saving emergency distress and communications equipment, wearing life jackets, attending safe boating courses, participating in free boat safety checks, and staying sober when navigating, we can all help ensure boaters on America's coastal, inland, and offshore waters stay safe. And whereas the mission of National Safe Boating Week is to raise awareness about important life-saving tips for recreational boaters, so that they can have a safer, more enjoyable experience on the water throughout the year. And whereas the city of Fort Lauderdale, known as the Venice of America, with 300 miles of waterways, supports the goals and objectives of the Safe Boating Campaign. We encourage all Americans who participate in boating activities to observe this occasion by learning more about safe boating practices and by taking advantage of boating safety education opportunities. Now, therefore, we, as City Commissioners of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 20th through May 26, 2023, as National Safe Boating Week in the City of Fort Lauderdale, and dated this, the 16th day of May, 2023, and signed by our mayor, the Honorable Dean J. Trentalis. Someone like to say a few words? Please say a few words.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Commander Mark Brody. The other three people with me have been introduced, two from Station Fort Lauderdale, and Peter and I are part of the auxiliary that supports Station Fort Lauderdale. Our goal is to stop the deaths on the waters and educate the public, so everybody does have personal protection equipment with them, especially wearing life vests. If everybody would wear a life vest, the death count on the water would go down. And considering the amount of navigable water in Fort Lauderdale, it's very important to us to continue public education courses and educate boaters every week. So that's why next week is National Safe Boating Week. We will have numerous displays at boat ramps, flyers going around, some commercials, and we ask for your support. And I'd like to thank the city, the mayor, for this proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get a photo.
Thank you, gentlemen, for keeping us safe. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So that's the last of our presentations and proclamations. Thank you, everybody, for participating in that and your patience for those who are waiting for the agenda items. And thank you, commissioners, for assisting in this program this evening. Before we begin our regular agenda, there is a walk-on which I've been asked to take out of order here. This is the motion regarding the watch party for the Riverwalk, at the Riverwalk for the Panthers. One person has signed up to speak. Genia Ellis, you want to speak? Please come on up. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, okay, great.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioner, Vice Mayor, staff. The item that's before you addresses a singular role. We would like to amend this request to show that if we're successful in Series 3, that Series 4 will be allowed to go forward as well. We'd like to add in Esplanade Park and Huizinga Plaza as other locations should the cats go forward.
Well, we're going to win, aren't we?
We're on the hunt.
Yes. Okay, so there's a motion to approve the music exemption as amended, and everyone has seen a copy of this now. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Do I say any further questions with regard to the motion? There being none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that motion is now approved. Thank you, and we'll all be there.
Go Cats.
Exactly. Go Cats.
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, we begin our regular agenda. Now, at our meetings, there are different sections of the agenda. We start out with what's called the consent agenda. What we do is we vote on all these items all at once. However, a member of the commission can pick out a particular item to vote on and discuss separately, and I will poll each member of the commission to see if there's an item they wish to pull. If one of those items that you came here to speak on is pulled, at that time, you'll be asked to speak on that item. If the item you came here to speak on in the consent agenda is not pulled, then I would invite you to speak before we begin the vote on that particular item. So let's see what the City Commission is interested in doing. Commissioner Herbst, are there any consent agenda items that you wish to pull?
No.
None. Commissioner Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
None.
Commissioner Glassman?
Thank you, Mayor. CP2.
CP2. Is that it?
That's it. Thank you.
And Commissioner Sturman?
CR1.
CR1?
CR1.
Okay, so let me just see who signed up to speak. All right, so people have signed up to speak on the consent agenda, but for the items that were now pulled, so I invite you to speak at that time. Is there anyone who's interested in speaking on any item on the consent agenda other than CP2 or CR1? I see no hands. Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda other than CP2 and CR1?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? Yes. Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and those items on the consent agenda are now all approved. So if you came to hear the vote on that, your item's now been approved, and you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you're also welcome to leave if you need to. So we'll go on. So let's first hear from Commissioner Glassman, CP2.
Okay, thanks. Mayor, I thought Commissioner Sturman pulled CR, a consent resolution. Would that come first, or do you want to skip ahead?
Just go ahead and please talk about CP2.
CP2, okay, Mayor. We'll take it out of order then, no problem. Usually we go in order, so I...
Would you just please go ahead?
Well, I'm
on
having fun. I'm having fun with you,
You
now
want me to do
because
CR1 first? I'll be brief.
You're so affected by
You want me
this.
to
So.
I'll be brief.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, CR1. Is it okay with you, Mr. Mayor?
Well, he seems very determined to go out of order, so I feel like I can go ahead. But go ahead.
If Ben could come up just for a minute. Should be pretty brief. Thank you, Ben.
Go ahead, Commissioner Sturman.
Okay, Ben, this is the two quick questions. Do we have any dollar amounts with any of the projects? I see that's the listing here, and do we have a ranking, a priority, or not?
So good evening, Mayor, Commission. Ben Rogers, Director of Transportation and Mobility. To answer your question, Commissioner Sturman, we do have some price cost estimates on some of these projects, but not all of them. They're not required when we submit it because a lot of these are going to be future year funds, and the cost estimates will change from now until then. The second part on the priority, there is no priority. It is just a list on a piece of paper. We could alphabetize it, we could leave it how it is, but there is no priority being submitted.
That was all. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Any further questions? Okay. Mr. Smoker, Ed Smoker, you still here in the room? There you go. Mr. Smoker is asked to speak on CR1. Good evening. Could you push the, there you go. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I haven't been around for a while. I've been traveling. Anyways, my name is Ed Smoker. I've lived here since 1956, when 40,000 people lived in the entire county.
How
Last
many?
year, 40,000. 1956. Last year, 40,000 people moved into the county in 1 year. We'll not ever get consensus if we continue to open up the discussion to items that have been vetted out over the last 10 years. What I've heard since Commissioner Sturman brought up the discussion, and you know I've been at every meeting, is that identical individuals' desires that the community has already vetted and compromised on. The community has vetted this process for more than any project I've ever been involved in over the past 45 years that I've been in real estate. The plan you have before you represents a consensus where no one got everything they wanted. Everyone got something, which is all the best definition of a good negotiated compromise. The bottom line is that 16 dirty and diseased black olive trees that are prohibited to even be planted now will be taken and replaced by 200 approximate trees to restore Los Olas to the original canopy that existed in the early pioneers' days when they settled here. The oak tree canopy will bring shade to the wider pedestrian sidewalks, which will encourage more comfortable community activity on the street. Please respect and help us achieve the vision that was brought about by hundreds of community individuals who spent hundreds of hours to get this plan before you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smoker.
And any questions?
This wasn't about Las Olas Mobility, just so you know, this was about,
I thought it was on there, though.
no, no,
It
It
is.
is on the list. It's number 2, Las Olas Boulevard Phase 1.
no.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anyone else wish to speak on CR1? There being none, would someone like to move the item?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, supporting the submission of transportation and mobility projects to the Broward Metropolitan Planning Organization to be considered for inclusion in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that item is now approved. Now, would you like to talk about CP2?
I'd be happy to, Mayor, because I know
Okay.
you're just dying to hear it. So, yes. So, Mayor, this came up as a discussion last evening in my pre-agenda meeting as well. There are many folks that are going to be impacted by this project. And by this project, I mean the Northeast 4th Avenue Streetscape project. You know, it's been in the works since the county announced it about 6 years ago in 2017. But I'm finding that we have not done enough education in terms of the neighborhoods, particularly South Middle River and also Middle River Terrace. And I'm actually going to ask if we could just hear from Ben Rogers. I want to know if we're going to be able to have someone from staff speak to these neighborhood associations and how much of an issue it would be if I just asked to defer this until our next meeting on June 6th. I mean, we've waited 6 years, so I'm not sure if 3 weeks is going to matter, but you tell me what kind of constraints we're under. But I would say that I know that Middle River Terrace had expected someone from staff at its March meeting, and that did not happen. So I'm just concerned that the neighborhoods are not knowing enough about this project.
Yeah, absolutely, Commissioner Glassman. After we heard those concerns last night, we've worked with Middle River Terrace. I'm actually scheduled to attend their HOA meeting next Wednesday to present the project and provide information. As to deferring the item, I'll leave it to the commission, but there should not be any impacts if we delay it one meeting.
One meeting would be okay?
Yeah, I checked with procurement to ensure that there was no bid issues or timelines, and we could extend a meeting with no issues.
And will you be able to also speak with folks from South Middle River as well?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mayor, that's what I would actually request. I would request that we defer this until June 6th. I think you might have some speakers, I'm not sure, but I would request the deferral until our next meeting on June 6th.
Well, we do have a couple of speakers who have asked to speak, but is this going to impact in any way the construction schedule? And is that, and if it does, is that going to cost the city any more?
It should not. 2 or 3 weeks is not a major impact.
Okay. All right. So we have two people who signed up to speak. Troy Liggett. Troy, you're here. Okay. And Chris Nelson. I think I saw. Oh, there he is in the back. Mr. Liggett, how are you?
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, thank you for having me. I'll just be very brief. We intended to have the city at our March meeting, and I think there were communication problems. I think it's really important that the neighborhood see the project and can provide input, so we could return the next meeting and share with you our thoughts in regard to this project. So I've worked with Ben, I've worked with CEJA from the Central City Redevelopment Agency. This is their project. And I think we're all in agreement that this short delay would be wonderful on behalf of the neighborhoods. And I
Okay.
appreciate your support.
All right. Very good. 364-page report. 394-page. Mr. Nelson.
Yes, hello, Commission. Chris Nelson, Fort Lauderdale. And yeah, we're not going to rip those trees out from Las Olas, but we're not talking about that tonight. That's at the next meeting.
That was a previous agenda item. That was a previous agenda item, but you could talk about that.
Not tonight, next time. Those trees are beautiful. We're not going to rip those out, okay? All right. So, you know, when I look at this and I see streetscapes, and I just, you know, when I see streetscapes, it concerns me, okay? Let's avoid using these streetscape projects to promote political ideologies, things like this. I don't know if you noticed it, but your flag down there on Sebastian Street is not looking so good these days. And not everybody, agrees with that kind of thing. And, putting things in the middle of the road is not always the best thing, especially when it's a symbol that you really like, okay? I just hope you see that and not use taxpayer money on that kind of thing. I don't know if this project has to do with that kind of thing, but I just advise against doing that. And also, I see this Fort Lauderdale 2023 vision or 2033 vision or whatever. Okay, it's great.
2035.
2035, all right. We are always going to have cars, gas-powered cars. I understand that. It's just the truth. If you want to fight climate change, then stop selling the city to all the developers, okay? But we're going to have that. So bike paths are important, but we still need room for cars. If the whole city becomes bike paths and sidewalks, it's going to cause a lot of traffic problems. We're not getting rid of cars. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. So I just hope you just take that. This is just some comments I had, and I appreciate you, Commission, and thanks for giving me the time to speak.
Sure, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item? There being no one, would someone like to move the item?
Well, I'd like to move to defer till June 6th.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion to defer to, when did you say the date was?
Our next meeting is June 6th, correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's our next meeting.
June 6, 2023.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions with regard to that? There being none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that item is now deferred to June 6th. M1, motion approving event agreements and related road closures for Stonewall Pride and Vegan Block Party. This is at Esplanade Park, right? Yeah. Any questions? Someone like to move the item? Been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and M1 is now approved. M2, motion approving the task order number 2 for Owner's Representative Services 5-ash water treatment replacement project. Any questions with regard to this item? If none, would someone like to move the item?
Moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
No.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and M2 is now approved. M3, motion for discussion. City Commission requests a review, certificate of appropriateness for demolition, case number UDP HP 23016, 301 Southwest 14th Way. We have several people who signed up to speak. Why don't we call those folks? Michaela Conca, was Michaela here? Oh, there she is. Hi. And Maggie Hunt, followed by Blaze McGinley. So, Michaela, you want to come up? Good evening.
Good evening.
Just pull the microphone down to your. There you go.
Oh, nice. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor Beasley, and Commissioners. Some of you know me. Some of you had a chance to meet me briefly already. My name is Michaela Conca, President of Broward Trust for Historic Preservation. I am going to be pretty brief here with this. The main reason for speaking this evening is that Broward Trust supports setting the hearing before the commission in which the neighborhood and the community in general can let their voices be heard. So we're hoping to see this meeting tonight be deferred. For the new commissioners, I just want to briefly talk a little bit about our losses of our historic resources. We have lost many already, and we are continuing to lose them. And this is a prime example of a single-family home that was designed and built by William F. Bigney. He was quite ahead of his time in terms of building a home that was based on sustainability for the environment in which he lived. And we happen to believe that this house is worth saving, and actually we will probably be moving forward with a historic designation on it. So thank you so much, and again, I look forward to a second meeting on this issue.
All right, thank you. Maggie Hunt, followed by Blaise McGinley.
Hi. We had quite a few people in our neighborhood come to the HBB board meeting, and they're not here tonight. But there's a lot of our neighbors that are really concerned that either maybe disagree with some of the fulfillment of the ordinance by the applicant, and I think it would help, even if, however that is, it would help the neighborhood and the citizens a lot if that could all get fleshed out, because this is a fairly important house, and I feel like we really want to do the right thing before we would demolish it. I just want to speak quickly to some of the innovative architectural details.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
To make more vivid the importance of some of them. And I'm going to compare to some things that Aire did. I know every architect knows who he is. He designed the St. Louis Arch, many corporate headquarters, including the Deere & Company World Headquarters in Moline, Illinois. And among the quite a few things that he did there that were very innovative and talked about as revolutionary were external shade devices. And here we have in our own community somebody in Fort Lauderdale that actually did this with this house. And he may have done it with other houses, but he incorporated some, I think, fairly permanent wood shade devices that are designed differently. But still, to think that some of his ideas were operating on the same level as a guy like Aire is pretty special. I know at the HPB board meeting, some architects came and talked about how he would blend his designs in with nature. And of course, this is like almost in the middle of a preserve there. And many of mid-century houses that look like this one have a concrete-looking facade. It's probably stucco. But this one is wood to help it blend in. And he not only did that, but he went a step farther. And if you go in the back portion of the house, you sit and you can easily forget you're inside. It's like you're sitting in the middle of a preserve. And that also makes this house very special. A couple of things that were brought up at the HPB meeting as to why they were voted against was if we didn't care about the police station, which he designed enough and demolished it, they couldn't go with saving this structure. And the thing about the police station, it had several additions. The last one was not done by Bigney, and it was large enough that it made the police station unrecognizable for its original design, and so it has made it so it can't be designated historically of any kind of importance. Also, there was mention that if it wasn't Sailboat Bend, that it wouldn't be coming up, and it was a hardship on the neighborhood. But he has a house, I think it's around the Harbor Beach area, called the Willard Van Osdol King House that is on the National Register of Historic Places. And since as I mentioned that, his house that he lived in is down the street, and it has got an extremely creative aspect to it in that you can see a branch of the river or part of the river running underneath the house because it's got some glass parts in it. And so if the historic group from Broward is thinking about designating this one, that one is even more important, and I know the owner's very proud of it, and somebody should talk to her.
All right, well, thank you. Can I ask you a
For
question?
the
Oh,
record,
I'm
could
sorry.
Maggie just identify her neighborhood and her address, because she said the neighborhood. I want...
Sailboat Bend, 1307.
Sailboat Bend, thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Maggie? In the backup, it shows the house, and then it shows a shed, and it shows a main house, a shed, and a guest house. So are you looking to preserve the main house, the guest house, and the shed?
Yeah, I'm talking about the main house. I don't know as much about the other ones.
All right, because the others are cute, but I don't think they're part of the historic
Probably
aspect.
not. Oh, and the applicant did, at the meeting, offer to donate the house and sounded like he might even be willing to move it over on one lot because it straddles two lots.
Uh-huh.
So maybe.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McGinley.
Hey, my name is Blaze McGinley, 1500 Argyle Drive in Sailboat Bend. So I'm not going to speak to the architecture because Maggie Northgard sent a letter that was very nice, and those descriptions are fitting what we've heard before. So I'm not going to get into that. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a local architect as well. I'd like to speak to the process because that's what I'm a little disappointed in. So 5 of the neighbors show up at the historic meeting. All the neighbors on that street, every homeowner showed up to that meeting. We all gave very impassioned speeches about why the house needed to be saved and the integrity of the neighborhood and all that good stuff. And then it came time for disclosures, and only one person had visited the house. And that one person was the person who voted to save it. So I'd have to question what the role of an historic board is if they don't visit the homes and then they vote to demolish a home in an historic district. It just seemed like the machine wasn't working. So that was really the point I'd like to make. And I'm not necessarily against moving the home, but one of the elements I'd like to bring up is that its integration with the water and the fact that it has like mangroves growing from underneath. So I would be, I think we could have a discussion about moving the home, but I think it would be appropriate to keep it along the water as opposed to trying to put it into the nature preserve, which isn't for homes. That's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on M3?
Yes.
Did you sign up, sir?
I did not sign up. I talked to the gentleman at the door. He said because I was an applicant that he decided.
Oh, you're the applicant?
Yes.
You have to be sworn in, though. No? The applicant doesn't have to be sworn in? Okay.
We're not in the quasi-judicial stage of this review. This is
Okay.
the initial motion to determine whether or not you are going to set a hearing for a
Okay,
de
come
novo
on
hearing.
up. And please indicate what your name is.
Hello, my name is Kurt Fretham. I am the property owner at 301 Southwest 14th Way. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your consideration on this application. I know it's a sensitive matter for a number of people. A couple comments that I have, or thoughts. To some people, it's a special thing, and they appreciate the architect's work. I bought the property. It did not have a historic tag on it, and I invested in it with the intention of removing it. And so it comes a bit of a surprise that people are moving to that extent. I feel like infringing on my, I don't want to say rights, but it certainly feels that way. I would be happy to donate the house if somebody wants it. I'm trying to make my intention is to make a substantial investment into the neighborhood with putting up 3 nice homes that provide a lot of good for the area, although they are not would not likely be of similar design. I thought it was interesting that it was okay to take the police station down. Yeah, it maybe didn't look the same, but if that was important. It could have been restored to look like it used to, if honoring this gentleman, Mr. Bigamy, is that important. And I also want to remind you that the historic board voted 6-1. It wasn't a close vote. It wasn't nearly close. It was a 6-1 vote for approving my request to remove the home, and I hope you will continue to honor that request for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Trish here? There you are. You want to share some thoughts, share your thoughts on this matter?
Hi, good evening. Tricia Logan, Urban Design and Planning. I don't know if I want to share thoughts particularly, but this item did come before the Historic Preservation Board as a request for demolition of the main house and 3 accessory structures on the site. And the 3 accessory structures on the site do not have historic value, but the main house on the property was identified in the most recent architectural resource survey as a non-contributing structure to the historic district because it's outside of the period of significance for the neighborhood itself, which extends from around 1910 to 1961. And this property in particular was constructed in 1971. So it was identified as that, and then it was also identified as a potential historic landmark because of its architectural features and value, particularly because of the notable architect William Bigamy that's been mentioned, who has built several things within South Florida, including the police station. And there's 4 structures right along this street that were designed by William Bigamy around the same time period, all within the subtropical modern style, and have similar features that relate back to nature.
All right, so the decision of the Historic Preservation Board was to allow for the demolition because it didn't fit the criteria for preservation, is that correct?
Well, within our ordinance for historic preservation, there are 3 criteria listed for consideration of demolition. One is related to whether or not a property is contributing or non-contributing to the district. One is related to its value as a historic landmark, and one is related to the new development. Staff found that it met the first criteria because it's non-contributing to the historic district. The second criteria was not met because of its architectural value and potential for historic landmark status. And then the last one was found as non-applicable because we haven't received a complete application for the new development for these parcels.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Again, anyone else wish to speak on this item in the audience? Anyone from the commission?
I would, Mayor. I did call this item up because after the Historic Preservation Board meeting, I heard from many people. As you know, I represent Sailboat Bend, and I just wanted to remind my colleagues that Sailboat Bend is the only residential historic district in the city of Fort Lauderdale. So as Blaise said, there's a lot of concern in Sailboat Bend about what happened at the Historic Preservation Board meeting. I don't want to get into too much detail right now, but I will tell you why I called it up. I have read enough information in the backup. I watched the meeting, I read the minutes, and even though Trish made mention of the different criteria where the application did not meet the criteria for demolition, there were even more. But my main reason for calling this up is because I think that this property really does deserve a full hearing from the City Commission. And I would request from my colleagues that we set that de novo hearing so that we can flesh out what I found to be a lot of conflicting information when I went through the minutes, watched the meeting, read the staff report. I took a lot of time on this, and I did speak to a lot of the residents. There is a real concern about this property, and I think that we owe it to the architect, Bill Bigany. We owe it to our historic heritage. I would remind everyone that May is National Historic Preservation Month, so it's kind of ironic that we're talking about this right now. Our city of
We should have done a proclamation.
Well, yes, I mentioned that to someone already. We did one last year, actually. But, you know, all kidding aside, it's a very sensitive subject because the city of Fort Lauderdale is a certified local government. We have a certain responsibility to properties like this. One of the reasons I also want to have a hearing is because, and I'm not asking anyone to make up a decision now whether they think this property should be demolished or not. I'm just asking my colleagues to give us the opportunity as a neighborhood in District 2 to have everyone have the opportunity to speak to us and explain why they believe that this structure should remain in Sailboat Bend. I don't know how many of you have actually gone into this portion of Sailboat Bend. It is the preserve at Sailboat Bend. And I want to thank Blaze for mentioning that, how shocked he was that every single person on the Historic Preservation Board did not take the time to actually visit the site. I didn't know that until, you know, he rang a bell for me when I remember the disclosures. But that's a very serious, I think, error. And I think we need to find out why. So again, I want to find out more about why the period of historic significance doesn't move with time. You know, as the years tick by, our historic periods of significance should move with it. You know, Sailboat Bend, like the rest of us, are aging, and all of our historic periods of significance keep moving on with time.
Well, wait a minute.
Well, Mayor, what?
What? Look,
For you, it's
you
not?
know, there's a certain vernacular that
I understand.
that can be identified as in a certain time frame. For example, the Renaissance. Okay, Renaissance occurred between this period and that period. It doesn't keep moving through the centuries as we get older. The
I
Renaissance
understand.
occurred during that time.
Right.
It stayed
But-
in that time, and it's done.
I know. I don't know if Fort Lauderdale was very active during the Renaissance.
Well, there were
but
40,000 people
but
here in
but I think
1952.
I'll have to go back and check my history book on that one. But, you know, I do know that if we're going to say that the period of historic significance was up to 61, and then this house came 9 years later, I mean, that's a little close. But, you know, again, that's just one small point that I found when reading through. There's a lot of information. You know, I have the utmost respect for staff, but when I read the staff report, it really, practically every single criteria said does not meet the application for demolition. I think that when there was some legal opinions given, it seemed to have skewered some of the thoughts of the board members, and they although they understood, the importance of preserving this building, they were sort of swayed by some of the legal arguments, and there was a nuance. It was really a nuance of why they were swayed. So again, I'm not asking us to make a decision tonight. All I'm asking is to please, the ULDR says we have to set a hearing within 60 days of tonight. I'm just asking for your consideration of that. I'm asking for you to let's have that hearing. Let's hear the neighborhood out. Again, this is our only residential historic district in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Let's hear the neighbors. Let's hear it out. Let's go through the detail that I found sort of conflicting and contradictory in the backup, and then we can make a decision. But I think that we owe it to the neighborhood, and we owe it to the architect, who is actually one of our most significant architects. I would put him in the category of, through the decades, of Francis Abreu, an Avery, Charles McKirahan, an ironmonger. I can list and go on and on and on through the architects of importance in our city, but this is one of them. So again, this property deserves our respect for at least a hearing to see how the neighborhood feels. So I would ask you all, I will make a motion when the time comes, or if it's appropriate.
Well, now's the time to make the motion.
I would make a motion to set a de novo hearing. I think, City Attorney, we have up to 60 days to do that, according to the ULDR.
That's correct. You have to set it for either June 6th, June 20th, or July 5th.
Well, so I think the 6th is a little early because we have a lot on that calendar already. I would recommend we would do it either the 20th of July or the 20th of June or the 5th of July.
All right, so a motion has been made for a de novo hearing to hear the certificate of appropriateness for demolition with regard to 301 Southwest 14th Way. Does anyone wish to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions or discussion with regard to this item?
Yes, Mayor, I have some questions, if I may.
Go ahead.
So to the city attorney, so I thought this request was relatively benign until I just heard something from one of the speakers saying that this gives them an opportunity to submit an application for historic preservation. So tell me what happens if that application is submitted. Can the owner of the property then move forward with their demolition? Explain that process to me.
Yeah, I would defer to Tricia Logan to explain that process. The code was recently amended to provide some protections while the application is pending. And she's a little more versed on that process.
Is the button pushed?
Tricia Logan, again, Urban Design and Planning. For an application for designation, it is limited to being provided by either a motion by the City Commission, a motion by the Historic Preservation Board, the property owner or owners themselves. If there's multiple owners, it needs to be a simple majority of those owners. And it's also open to any nonprofit organization with a vested interest in historic preservation that can prove that interest that's been in place for over 5 years.
Okay.
So the Broward Trust for Historic
So I think that's what we
Preservation.
have, right? We've got the
Correct.
not-for-profit, okay. So they meet the criteria for the designation applications.
Correct.
So then what happens once that's submitted?
So once they submit a complete designation application, it's scheduled for a Historic Preservation Board meeting. Once we have a complete application, we also notice the property owner at that time, and we place a sign notice on the property. Once the Historic Preservation Board hears the item, they make a recommendation to the City Commission, and then it's scheduled for a City Commission hearing.
Commissioner,
So all that suspends his ability to demolish the structure, is that correct?
Yes, once we receive a complete application, there is an interim protective measure that's placed on the property where the property owner would not be able to demolish the structure or perform any major alterations to the structure or site during that process. And I believe in the code it's 180 days.
Okay, and if the historic designation application is approved over the owner's objections, then what happens?
It can be designated against the property owner's approval, but there is a state statute that says that a property owner can still demolish a property that's been designated after January 1st, 2022, if it's located in a flood zone.
Is this located in a flood zone?
It is. However, it's also located in a historic district, so I'd have to get a legal opinion on how this applies because the state statute doesn't apply to properties within a historic district.
Attorney Mr. Spence?
I'm not versed on that statute. I'd have to research that issue and get back to you.
Okay. So I have a concern. I had heard from several members of the Broward Trust for Historic Preservation that they wanted to have a hearing to evaluate this. But I'm concerned now, based on one of the things that I heard during that discussion, that there's going to be an intention to move forward with the designation of this property. If that's the case, I can't support this. We've got a property owner that has moved forward, made a purchase, is got plans to improve the property, and I'm always very uncomfortable when we allow somebody else to come in and designate that property historic. It's a taking of property rights in my perspective, so I can't support this.
Okay. Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes, I have a question.
I'm Vice Mayor, I'm sorry.
We're all getting accustomed to the title, so no worries. When purchases in a historic area, is there any type of disclaimer in that, that lease or that mortgage saying that it's designated as a historical site and it cannot be designated? Is that explained or?
Within the Broward County Property Appraiser's property listing for each property that's either designated or located within the Sailboat Bend Historic District, it does have a message on there that says that it is either a historic landmark or is in a historic district, and provides my contact information so that any property owner could reach out directly.
Actually, when you do a title search on property located in that district, it comes up as a title exception on a title commitment that it's in a historic district.
But gives a disclaimer that the property cannot?
Well, you have to go to the law. Then what happens is the person buying it, let's say they hire an attorney or a title company, they then are referenced to the law regarding what historic district means for Sailboat Bend, and they see the whole list of ordinances relating to the restrictions concerning that property. So there is notice to the buyer that they're in a historic district. But this house was not designated historic as a historic structure, correct?
It's not designated as an individual historic landmark.
Right.
And Mayor, Vice Mayor, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The other question I have, I think you answered the question. You said a process of 180 days once.
Once we receive a complete application, there is an interim protective measure that provides 180 days of a hold on the property for any major alterations or demolition.
Okay.
That doesn't preclude them from doing minor updates or just general maintenance.
Okay. And also in regards to the board and only one person actually visiting the site, is that in violation of the board's bylaws? Is it a recommendation?
I can answer that question.
Okay.
With regards to a quasi-judicial process, you should not be visiting sites. So the statute does allow for disclosures in cases that members do visit sites, but that is an anomaly in a quasi-judicial process. So the disclosure is meant to cure ex parte communication and ex parte site visits.
Okay.
As a quasi-judicial board, they should be considering only the information that's before them in the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
No other questions?
No further questions? Okay. Commissioner Sturman, did you want to add to any of your
No, just a
past comments?
clarification. We're not voting on the merits, just voting whether to have a hearing itself.
Correct.
So that's all I'm
We're
going to say.
voting on whether to have a hearing on the merits. Okay.
Mayor, I have a question. Tricia, maybe this might also be for the city attorney's office. Over the years of watching many different city attorneys and commission meetings and happenings in Sailboat Bend, and also reading what other city attorneys have said in other municipalities, I've often heard different opinions about individual designations and the protections of individual structures in a historic district. And I'd like us to be able to, at some point in time, flesh that out, because I have actually read opinions where people believe that if you have a property in a historic district, that property is afforded the protections of a historically designated landmark. And you don't have to go back and individually designate every single property in a historic district. So, not for tonight, but I would love to have some opinion on that, because I've read conflicting opinions from different attorneys in different municipalities about exactly what those protections are for a structure in a historic district. So I would just like to, get that clarification at some point in time. And if we're able to have a hearing, maybe we can talk about that at a later point in time. But it's just something that I've always seen as a conflict of opinions through the years. So thank you for that.
But you can be you can have a dwelling or structure in a historic district. It doesn't mean that it's precluded from being demolished. There are always mitigating circumstances, and this commission has entertained a number of demolition permits and have permitted them,
Yes.
even though they're in the historic
Oh, yes,
district.
you can get a certificate of appropriateness for demolition.
Right.
It's ironic, though, because one of the letters I did receive, and by the way, I did receive a lot of really excellent letters, I think all of us did, from architects and residents in Sailboat Bend. And one resident in Sailboat Bend actually told me that, well, what she had to go through just for changes of windows on her house and that whole process, and then compare that to just someone saying, oh, I just want to demolish the house, and it just happens kind of easily, versus what someone goes through when they want to perform all of the changes on a historic structure. It's kind of interesting.
Well, one of the concerns that I think Commissioner Herbst brought it up is about, it's right on the riverbank, right? And chances are this house is going to get flooded. And the owner has agreed to move it and to a higher ground, more than likely, to preserve it. To me, it's not going to be preserved if it sits where it is today. I mean, there's testimony today that it's sitting over water with mangroves growing under it. Well, that doesn't always end well.
Well, it's been there for 50 years, and you could still raise it in its current location. But again, that's something we could flesh out in a hearing, where we could come to some sort of agreement where perhaps in a hearing, we could see how we could preserve or save the house, whether it's on that location or not. That's another reason I think that we need to have that hearing, so we can talk about those possibilities.
Okay. All right, any further questions or discussions with regard to this item?
The motion on the floor is
To have a hearing on the merits of whether or not we should designate it, the way we should allow for the demolition of it.
Correct.
So allowing for a hearing.
And there were 2 dates set for the hearing, if we could select one.
Well, I would maybe not want to see July 5th, because that's the last date, and then if something happened, we would have to wait till the middle of August, right? So maybe it's best to do June 20th? June 20th, because that gives us a little time, a little cushion. What do you think?
Well, we have to assume the motion is going to pass, so pick a date.
I would move to defer, I would move to hold a de novo hearing on this application for June 20.
Okay.
2023.
2023.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
the motion on the floor. It's been seconded by Commissioner Sturman. Let's call for a vote.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? No. Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. So the item will be heard on June 20th?
20th.
2023. Okay. Moving on to R1, appointment of board and committee members. Mr. Clerk, would you please read the names into the record?
Yes, for the June 6, 2023 resolution, Planning and Zoning Board, Marilyn Mamano, nominated by Commissioner Sturman. Beach Business Improvement District Advisory Board, Lori Johnson, she's representing the Weston Fort Lauderdale, and Michael Berry, and that's a consensus alternate member. And for tonight's resolution, Education Advisory Board, Michelle Knapp, nominated by Mayor Trentalis. Northwest Progresso Flagler Heights Redevelopment Board, John Quayle, nominated by Commissioner Herbst. And Sustainability Advisory Board, Cameron Stiegel, nominated by Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman, and that rounds it out.
Okay, any further names or modifications to those recommendations?
David, could you read the list again?
The whole list?
No, but the ones that I appointed, my appointment.
Okay.
I think there's a mistake there.
The only one I read for you was Marilyn Mamano, and that would be on the June 6th resolution, not on the one tonight.
Okay, so that's not for tonight.
Not for tonight.
Okay, that's fine.
And Sister Merrill?
She's going to be on the June 6th as well. I'm sorry that we got that late, but yeah, she'll be added to the June 6th as well.
Okay, any other comments or modifications? There being none, would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduce.
It's been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, appointing or nominating, if applicable, board and committee members as set forth in the exhibit attached here to and made a part hereof. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and those folks are now made members of those boards and committees. I want to thank you for your sacrifice and commitment to our city. Thank you so much. R2, resolution authorizing the acceptance of grant funds and execution of Hurricane Ian grant agreement and all modifications to the agreement with the state of Florida. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Resolution's been introduced. Any questions with regard to R2? There being none, please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, delegating to the city manager the authority to accept grant funds and execute the grant agreement entitled Federally Funded Subaward and Grant Agreement for DR 4673 Hurricane Ian and all modifications to the agreement with the State of Florida Division of Emergency Management as a pass-through entity for the United States Department of Homeland Security Federal Emergency Management Agency. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and R2 is now approved. R3, resolution declaring the city's notice of intent to convey City of Fort Lauderdale interest in right-of-way located at Southeast First Street to Broward County for the installation and maintenance of improvements in association with the Broward County Main Library Plaza restoration. Is that going to happen? Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Before introduction, was all the members of the board for the women's club advised and had a conversation with staff? Was everyone notified through the women's club?
I'd like to ask Anthony Fajardo, Assistant City Manager, to help answer that, as he's been very engaged with the Women's Club.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commission. Anthony Fajardo, Assistant City Manager. I have spoken to several members of the Women's Club, including Joanne Smith, Jeannia Ellis, Courtney Crush, and Joanne's daughter, Stephanie. I went out to the site twice to walk them through what was being proposed. Their main concerns were that they didn't want their parking lot impacted. The landscaping that had been planted on the south edge of the parking lot between the area where the parking ends and where the county is looking to do additional work, they wanted to make sure that was protected. They also had some general comments regarding the homeless, and there's a staircase over there that's outside the scope of what the county's doing. They'd like us to look at a later date, and then also possibly look at conveying the remainder of the platted right-of-way to the Women's Club at a later date. But I did talk to Joanne Smith this morning. She said she was okay with everything and wasn't going to oppose it. But I know she's not here right now to speak for herself.
Thank you.
Very
We
good.
have, Gina, would you want to come up?
Anthony, while you're there, could you also, I know that in my conversations with Joanne as well, I know that they had some rough experiences with past contractors, and I was apprised of damage to the driveway and some flooding issues. And is that going to be something that maybe we can push the county to help us?
So I did reach out to the county and let them know that Joanne conveyed that to me. I wasn't aware of that situation prior to that conversation. Apparently it had to do with a contractor who was hired by the county to replace the windows on the library. And from the way Joanne explained the story, the contractor was fired and the damage was done and no repairs had taken place. So I did let the county know. There are representatives from the county here. They can speak to it if you like.
Okay. I would like to hear that because, it's been a rough, what, is it about 5-6 years that site has looked like that, the plaza? I'm trying to think of how long
I think it's been since 2016, 17, maybe.
So maybe 6 years.
2013, when we had the homeless project, and that was when they erected the fence around that area, and it's not moved since.
Yeah, I would love to know what the plans are. It's such an eyesore, and
do we know that if we convey this is a conveyance,
Yeah.
so do we know if we convey it that they're actually going to do the improvements?
I'd have to defer to the county on that.
Yeah,
I know you have to defer to the county on that, but I mean, is there a possibility of reverter if these improvements are never done? Here we've conveyed the real estate and nothing's ever done on it. I mean, do we get it back if they don't do the improvements?
No, we're conveying it via quitclaim.
We're conveying it. It's title.
Right.
And we're reserving just the utility easement back. So we're giving them the land with the expectation that they're going to do all these nice things to that property. Do we know, and what happens if they don't do it? They keep it.
That's true.
I mean, is there someone from the county here?
Yes.
How are you, sir?
And city
I don't mean to beat you up again, but.
And city attorney, I'd also like to know why this issue is tied into another walk-on about the police station later on.
That's a great question. But I want to go back to the mayor's point. I think it's important that that library is completed, so we can also add that modification to, or add that language. That should
Once
they
we
not
sign the deed, it's done. That's the thing.
right.
I just want to be sure that the improvements are actually accomplished before we, as we give this land up.
So that condition is we favor that. So he's looking at language that may accommodate that.
Hi, Len. Is there going to be a reverter clause in here if the?
We did not negotiate that.
But I mean, seriously, it's been since 2018 when I took office as mayor that we collaborated with the county. It was great. We were able to clean up the encampment there, and everyone was all excited. And the county administrator said that they had great plans for rehabbing that area. And then I can't believe that it's taken the need to receive a title to this property to be able to complete a project on that site. That's basically what we're being told. They couldn't do anything all these years until they got this strip of land from us.
Lynn Solomon, Assistant City Attorney. So, Mayor, yes, we can put the right of reverter in there. The county would have to agree to it, but there's not a problem. If they fail to, it's similar to how we did with Site K, the way we had the right of reverter, and that's how we got the property back, because they never moved forward.
Can we talk about that? Can you come up to the podium for a second? I don't think you have the authority to make any promises. I get it. But you know my concern.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, the rest of the commission here. This is a restoration project.
It's a what?
This is a restoration project.
Right.
And as you know, and I'm glad Commissioner Glassman mentioned that May is National Historic Preservation Month, because this is a historic building and it's a historic plaza.
Right.
And all we're trying to do is restore it to the condition it was when it was first done. One of the things, the anomaly that we're dealing with is part of the plaza is already built into this right-of-way area. It's already there. So what's holding this up is us getting the title so we can fix the entire plaza. So that's what's part of the holdup in this process.
Is your plaza encroaching on our property as it now stands?
But there's some history behind this, and I'm not a surveyor, architect, or whatever, but there is some language in here that it was intended that our property line went up to what we built to. There are documents in there, whether it's done or not. We've been working on this for a couple of years now, and just trying to figure out who owns what. I mean, it's really unclear who does. So we did this to say, hey, let's make it abundantly clear. Let us get the conveyance of the right of way. We're not even going up to the half part about that. We're about 3.5 feet short, just so we can fix it. We've had conversations with the Women's Club. We will continue to work with them to address their concerns there. The parking lot, everything we're going to do on the staging is going to be in the currently fenced-in area. We're not going to, we're hiring an arborist. We'll be working with them. We're trying to restore it, and that's where we're at.
So this is essentially to resolve a quiet title matter. Who actually owned that piece? Lynn, is that how you see it? Lynn Solomon? Lynn? Lynn?
So, Mayor, one of the things that we have had several discussions with the county about who actually owns it, and I won't go through all the details, but what we are giving is a quitclaim deed. We're not giving any warranties of title.
Well, I get that. I get that. But I mean, to the extent that we are giving up any interest, if we have it.
So your suggestion about a right of reverter, if they fail to make the improvement, say within 5 years, it's perfectly reasonable to me.
But I don't think he has the authority to enter into that agreement right now, so.
I understand.
But the improvements as they now exist that are technically, that were originally created by the county, they include the area that we're discussing?
It's a right-of-way.
Like the sidewalk, is it a sidewalk?
I'd have to defer to somebody else.
Anthony, what is exactly in that
I might be able to help. So the lines on the map, the plat that shows where the right-of-way is, it kind of covers the area to the south of the existing Women's Club parking lot and parts of the Women's Club parking lot. It kind of goes right down that middle where you park on the right as you come in from Andrews.
So are we abbreviating the women's parking lot then?
No. So what Kevin was saying is they are only working in the portion that they already had improvements in, which was roughly half of the existing right-of-way. The other half still remains, and the parking lot is still there.
And that's the deal?
Yes.
Okay.
So there should be no encroachment on what you see that the Women's Club utilizes today for their parking.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any further questions with regard to this?
Mayor, I
item?
do. I just want to make sure. So, Anthony, is there any impact at all to Southeast First in terms of keeping it open to traffic as it is today?
You're talking about the service road that goes
Yes.
East and west?
It's open.
Yeah, it remains open.
It's going to be okay? Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
I do. While we're on this topic,
I thought
Mayor.
that was your question.
I'm sorry, I have one more. So again, later we have a walk-on city manager about the property located at 1000 Southwest 2nd Street, which is, I guess, the police headquarters.
Yes.
Okay, when I look at that item, which is a walk-on later, under, towards the end on page 2 of 2, the city agrees to transfer, assign, and convey the city's interest in a portion of Southeast First Street to the county for Broward County Main Library Plaza restoration efforts. How did that sneak into a walk-on item on the police station? I don't even know, why is that there, and is that appropriate? And it's talking about what I just asked the question of Anthony, Southeast First Street. I'm just trying to figure out why that is in this walk-on for the police headquarters.
So I can try and address that, Greg, if you'd like. It might be a poor choice of words in the CAM. The idea was that we needed the BARC site and to be able to utilize that for construction trailers and staging for the police department headquarters, try and stay on schedule. We approached the county and talked to them about how we could make that work. They had requested that we consider some other items to help them out. So we're trying to be congenial and work together. They need something, we need something. It probably didn't need to get into the CAM because it was like a discussion that we had with the county. But it is an acknowledgement to a certain extent that we will try. It doesn't bind you. You could still say no.
Well, it does say, and I guess we'll talk about it later, but it does say the city agrees to transfer, assign, and convey the city's interest in a portion of Southeast First Street to the county for Broward County Main Library Plaza restoration efforts as described in Section 4 of the agreement, reserving unto the city a public and private infrastructure and utility easement. It almost seems like you're being held hostage on the library plaza project for the police headquarters, which isn't even related or close to.
Well,
I've never read anything like this, actually.
To be clear, Commissioner Glassman, the section in Section 4 is related to the easement and the conveyance. There is no language in the agreement that we are going to convey it subject to the agreement for the ILA.
It's still strange to me reading that in here.
We'll get to that.
Okay, but I just wanted to mention it now because we are talking about it, and we should know that later on we're already agreeing to it. So, Okay.
All right, let's move forward on this one way or the other. So, any other comments with regard to R3?
Yeah, Gina, quick question for you. I had the same concern that that Commissioner Beasley Pittman had. How much? I think that the Women's Club was notified like at the last moment. Have you had a chance to discuss it amongst the club itself or not?
Yes.
Okay.
The Women's Club has been engaged in discussions with the county for years, literally.
Okay.
The agenda item might not have been widely distributed, but I think there are other board members actually that are in the audience that are aware.
And they had no objection?
Well, you got our list of things we would like to be considered. We don't object to the plaza. What we asked for were those other items.
And you feel confident now that we're going to be okay with all those items that we just went through?
I believe so.
Okay.
You know, we're acting in good faith as well. The plaza being redone will be a bonus to the area.
Yes.
We talk about historic structures. The Women's Club is a very historic structure. The library also is historic. I think we're a little older
It
than
was
they are.
designated historic.
Yes, and I think it was
Yes.
built the same year as the Bill Bigney House in Sailboat Bend, around 1970,
Here we go.
71. And it's declared historic,
I'm so
by the
glad
way.
that you're here to
I tried
to chronicle these events.
I try to bring you the information. Thank you, Mayor.
I guess, Commissioner, respectfully, we would like to see the plaza done expediently. We think that that would be a job well spent there, but certainly not at the expense of the Women's Club.
Okay, let's move on. So there's a resolution that's been introduced regarding R3. Has it been introduced?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Does someone want to introduce R3? It's been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, providing notice of intent to convey City of Fort Lauderdale interest in real property located at Southeast First Street to Broward County for public purposes pursuant to Section 8.02 of the City Charter, subject to terms and conditions, providing notice of a public hearing before the City Commission at 6 p.m. June 20th, 2023, for consideration of the terms and conditions and authorized execution of the conveyance instruments by the proper city officials and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. Resolution is approved. Looking forward to seeing an exciting new plaza there. Okay. R4, resolution declaring the city's official intent to reimburse itself from the proceeds of the water and sewer revenue bonds, water and sewer improvements. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Any comments or questions? There being none, please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, declaring the official intent of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to reimburse itself for certain capital expenditures for water and sewer improvements by incurring debt, providing for the maximum principal amount of such debt and the nature of project costs, authorizing incidental action, providing for an effective date and rescission of prior inconsistent resolutions. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and R4 is approved. R5 is a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of the non-revolving line of credit agreement for the police and public safety project. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
It's been introduced. Any comments or questions? There being none, please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, authorizing a loan in the aggregate principal amount of not exceeding $45,500,000 in the form of a non-revolving line of credit for the purpose of providing interim financing to pay additional costs of development, design, acquisition, construction, equipping, installation, improvement, and furnishings of a new police and public safety headquarters building and parking garage within the city, including without limitation related equipment and technology, accepting the proposals of Regions Capital Advantage, Inc. to provide such loan to the city, authorizing the issuance of a non-revolving credit note to evidence and secure the loan, pledging the pledged funds as the source of payment and security for the loan and the non-revolving credit note, making findings and determinations as to said loan, authorizing the execution and delivery of such non-revolving credit note, approving the form of line of credit agreement, and authorizing the execution and delivery of such line of credit agreement, authorizing other required actions in connection therewith, providing for severability of invalid provisions, and providing an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman,
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and R5 is now approved. So we're going to have a series of public hearing items, and some of these we may consider controversial, some may be pro forma, so we'll try to get through them all as efficiently as possible. A number of people have signed up to speak on a few of them. PH1, public hearing and motion approving a second amendment to the Housing and Community Development 2021-2022 Annual Action Plan. Would someone like to move the item?
So moved.
Any questions with regard to this item? There being none, please call the roll.
Dwayne, do we need to close the public hearing first?
We don't have to close public hearing, do we?
We do.
We do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
Move to close public hearing.
Okay. We're going to be here all night. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll regarding the closing of public hearing on PH1.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and public hearing is now closed on PH1. Would someone like to move the item?
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, PH1 is now approved. PH2, public hearing and motion approving a third amendment to the Housing and Community Development Annual Action Plan 2019-2020 for the CDBG Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. Any
Move to close
questions?
public hearing.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll with regard to closing public hearing on PH2.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman? Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and public hearing is now closed on PH2. Would someone like to move the item?
Moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and PH2 is now approved. PH3 has been removed from the agenda. Am I right? Yeah. PH4, public hearing and a quasi-judicial resolution approving a waiver of limitation at 1208 Seminole Drive for the installation of one finger pier extending a maximum distance of 36.4 feet into the adjacent waters of Sunrise Bay, and 3 mooring piles extending a maximum of 56.4 feet into the adjacent waters of Sunrise Bay. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in. Commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Herbst, do you have any disclosures?
None.
Vice Mayor?
None.
Commissioner Glassman?
Looking at the list, none.
And Commissioner Sturman?
None.
And I have none. Anyone here on this item? I have one person signed up to speak, Mr. Nutter. Is this to support it? Oh, you're the rep, oh, okay. Okay. All right. Do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, the public hearing is now closed. Someone like to introduce the resolution approving the waiver of limitations?
Introduced.
Been
For approval.
introduced. Please, for approval. Yeah, please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, pursuant to Section 47-19.3E of the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations, granting a waiver of limitations of ULDR Section 47-19.3 to permit Stephanie Green, a trustee of the Stephanie Green Revocable Trust dated October 5, 2017, and Robert Saporiti, a single man, as tenants in common, installation of one finger pier extending a maximum distance of 36.4 feet plus or minus into the adjacent waters of Sunrise Bay, and 3 mooring piles extending a maximum distance of 56.4 feet plus or minus into the adjacent waters of Sunrise Bay. Such Property being located at 1208 Seminole Drive, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and more particularly described below, subject to certain terms and conditions, repealing any and all parts of resolutions in conflict herewith and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
No.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the resolution is approved. PH 5, public hearing, quasi-judicial, thank you, Mr. Nutter. Public hearing, quasi-judicial ordinance approving a rezoning from A1A beachfront area district to Parks, Recreation, Open Space, 500 Seabreeze Boulevard. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in. The commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. This is DC Alexander Park, correct?
Yes.
Any disclosures, Commissioner Herbst?
None.
Vice Mayor?
No.
Commissioner Glassman?
None.
Commissioner Sturman?
None.
I have none. No one has signed up to speak. Would someone like to move to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
So moved.
It's been moved. Do I
An ordinance amending section 47-1.6.b of the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations to the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and by reference made a part thereof so as to rezone from ABA A1A beachfront area to district to Parks, Recreation, and Open Space District, a portion of lots 10 and 11, Block 2 and Block B together with a portion of Sunrise Boulevard right-of-way, re-amended plats of Block A and 2 of the amended plat of Los Olas by the Sea according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 1, page 16 of the Public Records of Broward County, Florida, located west of Atlantic Boulevard, south of Northeast 5th Street, east of Seabreeze Boulevard, and north of Bahia Mar, all said lands being in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that ordinance is now approved. PH 6, public hearing, quasi-judicial ordinance approving a rezoning from the Downtown Regional Activity Center's Arts and Science District to Parks, Recreation, and Open Space. This is 400 Southwest 2nd Street. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in. The commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them part of the record. Commissioner Herbst, do you have any disclosures?
No.
Vice Mayor?
No disclosures.
Commissioner Glassman?
None.
Commissioner Sturman?
None.
I have none. What is this? Is this Esplanade? No.
PH 6?
What is PH 6?
Esplanade.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Esplanade Park.
Yes.
It's amazing that it was never designated as a park.
You know, I will say that I'm very proud of how many areas we're actually designating park now and protecting them and from the zoning that they actually are lying under all these years. We're making through about at least 20, I think we've done in the last couple of months. And I think it's great that we're actually designating these what we consider to be parks as actual parks.
I know.
As opposed to what they're zoned for. So I'm very proud of that.
Okay, so would someone like to move to close public hearing?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, the public hearing is closed on PH 6. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
In ordinance amending section 47-1.6.b of the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations through revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto by reference made a part thereof so as to rezone from RAC-AS Downtown Regional Activity Center Arts and Sciences District to Parks, Recreation, Open Space District, all of Parcel B, the Discovery Center plat according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 145, page 34 of the Public Records of Broward County, Florida, located west of Southwest 4th Avenue, north of the New River, east of Southwest 5th Avenue, and south of Southwest 2nd Street, all said lands being the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and PH 6 is now approved. PH 7, public hearing quasi-judicial ordinance approving a rezoning from A1A Beachfront Area District to Parks Recreation and Open Space District. This is 3,000 East Las Olas Boulevard. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in. Commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Any disclosures, Commissioner Herbst?
No.
Vice Mayor?
No.
Commissioner Glassman?
No.
Commissioner Sturman?
No.
I have none. Is this Merle Fogg?
This is actually Las Olas Oceanside Park, A1A and Las
Oh, right,
Olas.
right.
And I do have a question, Mayor, if it's a
I
good
thought
time.
that was already designated park.
No, it's probably ABA or something close to that, or maybe even the PUD, maybe even the.
Are you sure? I thought that
it could-
under Mayor Noggle,
I
there was
bet-
a whole big thing.
No, it might actually be.
Here comes Mr.
Chris is available.
It is
ABA?
ABA. I said ABA.
You got it.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. I had a question, Chris, while you were there.
Wait. Let's move to closed public hearing.
Okay, move to close public hearing.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Please call the roll to close public hearing on PH 7.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yep.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Yes, Commissioner Glassman.
Thank you, Mayor. Chris, this comes up often at my district meetings. You know the area that we typically have referred to as Channel Square, really close to the Las Olas Oceanside Park? It's that little grassy area when you just come over the Las Olas Bridge to the south, on the southeast side. It's a little area right by that canal.
Across from Quarterdeck?
No, across the street,
Across the
south
street.
of that, yes.
Okay.
It's an area that's been identified as Channel Square over the years, and it has always had different iterations of possibilities, visitor center, things like that. Is that an area that we're going to be able to rezone to park, just to keep that open and green?
So we could, I believe, prior to recently, that was a CRA-owned property, and then when that CRA sunset, I believe it was, it's now city-owned property. So certainly something, if the commission wants us to look at, we can work with Parks and determine if that's, the right way to go and bring that back to you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on the list, Phil, but I would appreciate if we could get that on the list to designate park, and then figure out what we want to do. But I think that needs to be protected as open space on the barrier island. Thank you.
Okay, no further comments. So would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
In ordinance amending section 47-1.6.b of the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations through the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale on Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and by reference made a part thereof so as to rezone from ABA A1A Beachfront Area District to Parks Recreation Open Space District, a portion of Block A re-amended plat of Blocks A and 2 of the amended plot of the Las Olas by the Sea according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 1, page 16 of the Public Records, Broward County, Florida, together with a portion of the vacated Palm Drive right-of-way as recorded in Official Records Book 12194, page 448 of the Public Records of Broward County, Florida, located west of Atlantic Boulevard, north of Northeast 5th Street, east of South Seabreeze Boulevard, and south of Las Olas Boulevard, all said lands being in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and PH 7 is now approved. PH 8, public hearing, quasi-judicial ordinance approving a rezoning from residential single-family duplex medium-density district to Parks Recreation Open Space District, 1311 Citrus Isle. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Herbst, do you have any disclosures?
No.
Vice Mayor? No. Commissioner Glassman?
No.
Commissioner Sturman?
No.
And I have none. We have one person who signed up to speak, two people signed up to speak, Ted Insera, and is that Trudy? Trudy Germanovich. Mr. Insera. Please speak your piece.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. And Mr. Glassman, I do agree with that one little piece of land you just spoke about. That's where you have parasails, rent parasail boats and stuff right there. Yeah, that is an important piece of land. I did make a site visit out to Citrus Isle here, and that's in our District 4 neighborhood. That is just a beautiful piece of property. It's all natural. It's right on the river. They have a couple of benches out by the seawall where you can just sit there. It's teeming with wildlife. Some of the scrub pines that are in there have to be close to 100 years old, because I think I was there when they planted them. And it's just...
You support the item?
Yes, I do support this item.
Okay.
And it's just a beautiful, pristine piece of land, old Florida, that we need to preserve, without a doubt. Thank you.
Okay, and Trudy.
Hi, I'm Trudy Germanovich. I live about 2 houses down from the park. I have been a longtime friend of Jack Mitchell and his family, who donated this park about 2 years ago.
It's not a park yet.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure it is. There's a sign there that says.
Yes, it does. Mitchell Family Park.
Well,
and I just wanted to say that it really is a little gem. I urge you all to come out and take a look at it. He used to say he'd like to preserve a little bit of Fort Lauderdale so it could remain as it was throughout his lifetime. He came in the 30s. And I'm sure that this is why he donated this land to become a park. With this stand of old-growth oaks and longleaf pines bordering on the New River and Citrus Isle Canal, it's a wonderful place to come and enjoy nature, have a run, or even just a leisurely walk. I'd like to point out that this acre of heavily treed green space does much to further the city's goal of fighting climate change. It also provides a place to help wildlife thrive with an ever-dwindling habitat. As the recent flood revealed, much more land in Fort Lauderdale should be set aside for green spaces simply to provide more absorption rather than more impermeable concrete. I was a teacher for 35 years and I taught middle school science, and I asked the kids what, we were talking about the state bird, the state rock. The state rock, they said, was cement. It's coral, by the way, a little bit. So that told me a lot, and that was back in the 70s when they told me that. This should remain a place where everybody can come in the middle of this bustling city and just have a leisurely walk. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? There being none, would someone move to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll for closing public hearing on PH 8.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and PH 8 public hearing is now closed. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
An ordinance amending section 47-1.6.b of the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations through the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and by reference made a part thereof so as to rezone from RD 15 residential single-family duplex medium density district to Parks Recreation Open Space District, all of Lot 1 revised plat of Mrs. E.F. Marshall's subdivision of government lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, also east 1/2 of northeast 1/4 and northwest 1/2 of northwest 1/4 section 16 township 50 range 42 east according to the plat thereof as recorded in plat book 1 page 2 of the public records of Broward County, Florida, excepting therefrom the east 1,487 feet and the north 187 feet located west of Southwest 9th Avenue, north of Southwest 12th Court, east of South Fork, New River, and south of Southwest 12th Street, all said lands being in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective
Can you
date.
be more specific?
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and PH 8 is now approved. PH 9, public hearing, quasi-judicial ordinance approving rezoning from one-family detached dwelling county district to Parks Recreation and Recreation and Open Space District, 3352 Northwest 63rd Street. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in. The commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Herbst, do you have any disclosures?
No.
Vice Mayor?
No.
Commissioner Glassman?
No.
And Commissioner Sturman?
None.
I have none. What's on this site? Just the house?
Aire Park.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. But it could be a house. All right. No one signed up to speak. Someone like to move to close public hearing?
Moved.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner
Move to second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. So just so I understand this correctly, there is a dwelling, there's a structure on here now, right? According to the location map that I see in the attachment?
Where do you see a dwelling?
I see something.
I think that's
Phil, is there something on there?
You're probably seeing a playground, the top of the playground, there's a shade
Yeah.
structure over the playground.
It's just, so it's just the shade structure?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's already being used as a park, we're just finally calling it a park?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think it's from the Renaissance.
No.
Is the Statue of David on there too?
Yeah, exactly.
Not in Florida.
Okay.
Okay. So, where are we? We closed public hearing. Now we need to move the item. Someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
An ordinance amending section 47-1.6 point B of the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations through the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and by reference made a part thereof so as to rezone from RS5 one family detached dwelling county district to a Parks Recreation and Open Space District, a parcel of land being a portion of canal right-of-way as shown on the plat of Aire Village, second section, addition 3, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 78, page 31 of the public records of Broward County, Florida, located west of Northwest 31st Avenue, north of Northwest 67th Street, east of Northwest 34th Avenue, and south of Northwest 63rd Street, all said lands being in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and PH 9 is now approved. PH 10, public hearing, quasi judicial ordinance approving a rezoning from irregular residential county district, residential's single-family low, medium density district, and community business district to Parks, Recreation, and Open Space District. This is at 1230 Southwest 34th Avenue in the City of Fort Lauderdale. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Herbst, do you have any disclosures?
None.
Vice Mayor?
None.
Commissioner Glassman?
None.
And Commissioner Sturman?
None.
And I have none. No one has signed up to speak. Someone please move to close public hearing.
Moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. On PH 10, someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduce.
It's been introduced.
In ordinance amending section 47-1.6 point B of the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations through the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and by reference made a part thereof so as to rezone from RS 6.7 irregular residential county district, RS 8 residential single-family low-medium density district, and community business district to Parks, Recreation, and Open Space District, all of lots 9 through 14, Block 8, Melrose Park, Section 4, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 29, page 48 of the public records, Broward County, Florida, less the north 100 feet thereof, and all of Westwood Terrace according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 10, page 38 of the Public Records, Broward County, Florida, and a portion of the northeast 1/4 of Section 18, Township 50, Range 42 East, located west of Southwest 31st Avenue, north of Davie Boulevard, east of Southwest 35th Avenue, and south of Jackson Boulevard, all said lands being in the city of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalles?
Yes, and PH 10 is now approved. PH 11, this is a public hearing, quasi judicial ordinance approving a rezoning from Regional Activity Center, Center City District to Parks, Recreation, and Open Space. This is 10 East Broward Boulevard. 10 East Broward Boulevard. Okay? Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. This is Stranahan Park, right?
Correct.
It was never a park.
Can you imagine? Look what it's zoned for.
I know.
You could
build
it's in Iraq.
You could build a 50-story building.
No limit at all at Stranahan Park. Think about that. No limit at all.
No one signed up to speak. Would someone like to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalles?
Yes, the public hearing is now closed on PH 11. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
So moved.
An ordinance amending section 47-1.6.b of the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations to the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and by reference made a part thereof so as to rezone from RAC-CC Regional Activity Center City Center District to Parks, Recreation, and Open Space District, a portion of Block D, Stranahan subdivision, lots 13 to 18, Block 14, and according to plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 3, page 10 of the Public Records of Dade County, Florida, located west of Southeast First Avenue, north of Southeast First Street, east of South Andrews Avenue, and south of East Broward Boulevard, all said lands being in the city of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalles?
Yes. Does someone consult the Women's Club to see if they want to build an extension to their club? No?
You give it, can see the
PH 11 is now approved. PH 12, public hearing, quasi judicial ordinance approving rezoning from residential single-family low medium density district to Parks, Recreation, and Open Space District. This is 1016 Waverly Road. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Herbst.
None.
Vice Mayor.
None.
Commissioner Glassman?
None.
Commissioner Sturman?
None.
And I have none. Mr. and Sarah, you've signed up to speak. I don't think it's very controversial, but you're certainly welcome to speak.
Thank you. One more time. You know, Commissioner Glassman, I was going to have to speak on this because, I mean, Waverly Road, my goodness. If we're not going to say Waverly Road, what are we going to say? This park is just so beautiful. One of the nicest places in all of Fort Lauderdale. You're right on the water. It's a nice big area. They got one of the most beautiful banyan trees you can imagine, on the piece of property. And, I had the pleasure, I did make a site visit. I had the pleasure the other day, rode my bike all the way from River Oaks over to there. And, it's just such a beautiful piece of land that we got it. This definitely needs to be saved and kept. And I mean, come on, you can go over there, then you go over the swing bridge, go have some pizza over there at Pizza Spot. And it's just the greatest, Fort Lauderdale day you can have. And Sailboat Bend, like I said, we got to start drawing the line and putting our foot down on what, they're trying to do there. I'm not a big fan of our Historic Preservation Board because they usually don't do any of those words that are in their name. But the Sailboat Bend, got to keep the area. This park is, if nobody's ever been there, go to this park. It's just spectacular. And that's a great way to spend the day, and you'll really see all of Fort Lauderdale. Thank you, guys.
And Mr. and Sarah, you know that we only just purchased that a few years ago, maybe 2 years
I
ago.
know.
It was slated to have about 20 townhomes
I
built
know.
on that site. It's the Rivermont archaeological site. It's actually an Indian midden, and it was slated for development, and we saved it, and we purchased that land with the Parks bond thanks to the voters of Fort Lauderdale.
Yes, indeed. Oh, and one other thing, Mayor, I'll be seeing you tomorrow night at the Academy class, and I'll be seeing you Thursday night at the River Oak Civic.
Are you in the Academy?
Yeah, I am.
Wow.
Commissioner Glassman knows that, and you'll be seeing you Thursday night at the River Oaks Civic Association meeting. So I'll be seeing you the next couple of days.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? If not, would someone move to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman? Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes.
Yes, public hearing is now closed. Someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduce.
It's been introduced.
An ordinance amending section 47-1.6.b of the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations through the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale on Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and by reference and made a part thereof so as to rezone from RS8 Residential Single Family Low Medium Density District to Parks Recreation Open Space District, all of lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, Block 101, Waverly Place, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 19 of the Public Records of Dade County, Florida, located west of Southwest 9th Avenue, north of North Fork New River, east of Palm Avenue, and south of Tequesta Street, all said lands being in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and PH 12 is now approved. PH 13, this is a public hearing quasi-judicial ordinance approving a rezoning from residential single-family medium-density district to residential multifamily low-rise medium-density district. This is in the Central City CRA. I have quite a few people sign up to speak on this. Any disclosures, Commissioner Herbst?
No.
Vice Mayor?
No.
Commissioner Glassman?
On February 10th, 2023, I had a phone call with South Middle River Civic Association President Lynn Morgan. And then also on March 13th, 2023, I had a meeting with Lynn Morgan, Dean Richards, and Chris Cooper, and for sure, numerous site visits. Thank you.
And Commissioner Sturman?
I spoke to Chris Cooper about this, I believe.
Okay. I have no disclosures on this. So this is the thing. Chris, can you please explain to us again the issue here? This is between 7th Avenue and 9th Avenue, and there's a recommendation by staff versus a recommendation by the Planning and Zoning Board.
So correct. Chris Cooper, Director, Development Services Department. So this rezoning is at the request of the city. We're the applicant, and we did that on behalf of the Central City CRA, who asked for this area to be rezoned. So what the city originally applied for to go before the PZB was to rezone the entire area to RM15. What the Planning and Zoning Board eventually voted on and recommended to you is to split the area essentially between 8th Avenue and 7th Terrace mid-block to do RM15 to the west to Powerline and do RD15 east to Northwest 7th Avenue. There was some concerns expressed by the board that the density or type of development that's allowed in RM15 would be a little too intense for anything too far into the interior of the neighborhood, which is why they decided to bisect the area and do the split zoning.
Okay. So, Lynn, you're signed up to speak first, but can you come up here? So I think maybe we can shortcut this process. Good evening. I know you've been sitting patiently all night. Lynn, is it our understanding that you support the staff's position on this?
That's correct.
And am I to assume from all the people that have signed up here from the neighborhood that we want the staff's position to be approved?
I believe so. I'm not sure of everyone who's signed up.
Anyone here that signed up to speak who's opposed to the staff's position on this? Everyone that signed up to speak, Ray, you support the staff's position on this? Alan, you'll support, okay. So This is going to take us a half an hour, and I'm just wondering if we can just shortchange it, because I don't think it's controversial. Is anyone here, well, anyone who's still here, have any opposition to the staff's position? If not, why don't let's just close public hearing, and I think we're good with it, all right?
Good, okay.
All right. So, do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? Yes. Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing is now closed on page 13. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance approving the rezoning?
Introduce, and, I'm sorry.
For clarification, so the staff position is not what's written in the ordinance, so it's, we'll have to amend the.
So you have to amend the- you have
Amend
to
the
amend it.
ordinance.
Right.
And if it would state.
So introduced as amended.
Yes, sir.
Introduced as amended with the entire area being RM15.
Thank you.
Thank you for correcting that. Please call the roll.
It's a long one. An ordinance amending section 47-1.6.b of the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations to the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and by reference made a part thereof so as to rezone from RDS 15 Residential Single Family Medium Density District to RM 15 Residential Multifamily Low Rise Medium Density District, all of lots 1 through 24, Block 25, together with all of lots 1 through 24, Block 26, all of lots 1 through 24, Block 27, together with all of lots 1 through 24, Block 69, together with all lots 1 through Block 24, or 1 through, lots 1 through 24, Block 70, together with all of lots 1 through Block 20 through 24, Block 71, together with lots 1 through 11 and lots 14 through 24, and Lot 12 less road right-of-way, and Lot less 13, the south 15 feet thereof, Block 74, together with lots 1 through 24, Block 73, together with all of lots 1 through 11, and lots 14 through 23, and Lot 23 less the south 15 feet thereof, and Lot 13 less the south 15 feet, unless that portion described in the official records book 4162, page 533 of the public records of Broward County, Florida, and lot less that portion of the northwest corner lying within the external area formed by a 25-foot radius arc, which is tangent to the west line and tangent to the north line of said lot 24, Block 25, Progresso, according to plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 8 of the public records of Dade County, Florida, located west of Northwest 7th Avenue, north of Northwest 13th Street, east of Northwest 9th Avenue, and south of Northwest 16th Street, all said lands being the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
And before I vote, I just wanted to take 2 seconds to thank the South Middle River Civic Association folks that are here and the entire community in that neighborhood who have been working so hard on this. In addition, the Central City CRA Board that's been working so hard on this. And I also wanted to remind my colleagues, this is just the first step, and I really am urging city staff to keep this going. This plan has a lot more behind it than just this initial step for this quadrant. It's really important. It's taken a long time. We went through changes of consultants, lots of different public hearings at City Hall. So I'm really hoping, City Manager, we can keep this rolling, keep it going. And I think also we should also recognize at this moment Luis Castillo, who I think would be very happy. He worked very hard on this as well, on the Central City Board and in the neighborhood, and I'm sure that he's looking right now at us all and saying thank you for the work that we're doing here this evening as well. Thank you, Mayor. I'm very happy to vote yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Commissioner, can I have Chris come up just to ask one question? I know we closed public hearing. Can I?
Who do you want?
Chris.
Oh, Chris. Where's Chris? There he is. Chris.
I apologize for taking it. P&Z voted on this, correct?
Correct.
And this actually came up more than one time on P&Z.
So the item itself came back a few times. They asked us to go back and do more public outreach, which we did, and came back to them with that result.
And their vote was against this, correct?
Well, it wasn't against it. It was to alter what the applicant, which was the city, was asking for, to bifurcate the area into two and do RM15 to the west and RD15 to the east.
Was it unanimous?
I don't recall.
Okay, I'm going to vote no.
Commissioner Herbst?
No.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. So the item is approved.
Can I just get what, I'm sorry, what was that vote? Was it
3-2?
3-2? Okay, thank you.
What was the vote in the P and Z?
I believe it was 6 or 7 to 1 to go with the...
With the modified version?
Yes, I believe it was 7 to 1, if I'm looking at the right minutes from January 18th, 2023. This went, and I want to just mention a few things. That vote was also influenced a lot by a lot of the folks that showed up that mistakenly were given information where they thought it was affecting their neighborhood, and it really wasn't. It was a cross power line that the folks were concerned about. It wasn't even the boundaries that we're talking about right here. So I think that's why it's important that we are deferring to the actual boundaries and the location in which this is happening. But they were concerned about some of the density, but I've agreed with the neighborhood that this is really the right way to go. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Thank you, everybody who's here from South Middle River Civic Association. You know, it's very interesting. I mean, this is the whole neighborhood is here. And the staff did neighborhood outreach. And I don't understand why planning and zoning would go against what the neighborhood wanted. Okay, cool. Anyway, all right, moving on. OSR 1, second reading of an ordinance amending section 8-91 mooring structures. Again, this is the second reading.
Mayor,
Someone like to,
I think we skipped OFR1.
oh, I'm sorry, we did. OFR 1. I'm sorry. Correct. OFR 1, ordinance amending the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Code of Ordinances and Unified Land Development Regulations to provide for the designation of alternative locations for public meetings of the City Commission and advisory boards and committees, and for the designation of alternative locations for posting of notices and providing for an effective date. This is an ordinance on first reading. Someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
Been introduced. Anyone have any questions? No one has signed up to speak. Please call the roll.
An ordinance of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, amending Section 2-26 meetings, Sections 2-217 general requirements for advisory boards and committees, Section 9-355 meetings and procedures, Section 11-16 service of notices of the City of Fort Lauderdale Code of Ordinances, and Section 47-30.4 meeting and procedures, and Section 47-33.6 meeting and procedures of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Unified Land Development Regulations, and to provide for the designation of alternative locations for public meetings of the City Commission and advisory boards, and to provide for the designation of alternative locations for posting of notices, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinance provisions, codification and correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that's approved on first reading. Now we go to OSR 1, second reading ordinance amending section 8-91 on mooring structures. Anyone have any questions with regard to this? There being none, would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
Please call the roll.
An ordinance of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, amending Section 8-91 entitled Mooring Structures of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to amend the meaning of the terms mooring device and mooring structures, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinance provisions, providing for a correction of scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that ordinance is now approved on its second reading. OSR 2, second reading ordinance authorizing the state and federal criminal history screening checks for certain prospective city employees, specified present city employees, appointees, and private contractor or vendors who have access to sensitive city facilities, providing for severability, providing for conflicts and repeal, providing for correction of scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
It's been introduced. No one has signed up to speak. Please call the roll.
In ordinance of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, authorizing state and federal criminal history screening checks for certain prospective city employees specified present for city employees, appointees, and private contractors or vendors who have access to city facilities that are critical to security or public safety, providing for severability, providing for conflicts and repeal, providing for correction of scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that ordinance is now approved on second reading. OSR 3, second reading, quasi-judicial ordinance approving rezoning from residential multifamily high-rise, medium-high-density district to Parks Recreation Open Space District, 4201 North Ocean Boulevard, City of Fort Lauderdale. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Herbst, do you have any disclosures?
No.
This is your district, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Vice Mayor?
None.
Commissioner Glassman?
None.
Commissioner Sturman?
None.
And I have none. No one has signed up to speak. Someone like to move to close public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, public hearing is now closed. OSR 3, would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
So moved.
An ordinance amending section 47-1.6.b of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Unified Land Development Regulations through the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and by reference made a part thereof to rezone from RMH 25 residential multifamily high-rise medium high-density district to Parks Recreation and Open Space District, Lot 5, Block B, Bermuda Riviera sub of Galt Ocean Mile, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 38, page 46 of the Public Records of Broward County, Florida, located west of North Ocean Boulevard, north of Northeast 41st Street, east of Northeast 34th Avenue, and south of the Northeast 42nd Court, all said lands being in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that ordinance is now approved on second reading. We have another walk-on. Who's going to walk it on? Mr. City Manager. You've been
Yes,
sitting
this is
quietly all
a
night.
request from staff so that we can have a site that's much needed for the police headquarters construction. And then we can set a groundbreaking date.
Okay. Is that a resolution or an ordinance? What is that? I don't have the document in front of me, that's why I'm,
It's a motion.
it's an ordinance?
A motion.
It's a motion. Someone like to move the item? Someone like to move the item?
Is this the one where we're throwing the library into the police headquarters?
I'm not sure why that line was,
No,
It belongs there. It is a part of the agreement. You are correct, Commissioner.
Okay.
So Commissioner Glassman moves the item. Commissioner Glassman.
Yes,
moves
I
the
did.
item.
I did.
Do I
moved
hear a
it
second?
Because I want to see that plaza done after 7 years.
Come on, I need a second.
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the item is now approved. Is there any further business of the commission? Mr. Spence?
No, sir.
Mr. City Manager, you have any additional business?
yeah, I wanted to provide an update about the city attorney search.
The city what?
Or were you going back
We have to go back to the
We're
conference
going back to
then.
the conference.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
Okay. Any further business of the evening meeting? There being none, that meeting is adjourned, and we will now recommence the conference meeting. So we'll go back to the conference meeting, and let's go on to city commission reports. Commissioner Herbst, do you have reports for us tonight?
No.
None. Commissioner, Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman?
No report tonight.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes, I do, Mayor. Thank you. First, I want to thank our staff, particularly IT, and I want to thank the Broward Center for the Performing Arts for putting this all together. I know this is not easy, setting all this up. great job, just like with the Parker Playhouse. So thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Really quickly, it was a pleasure to attend the Fort Lauderdale Fallen Officers Memorial Ceremony. I always find that one of the most moving ceremonies of the year. Also on May 3rd was the Victoria Park Civic Association meeting. I had an excellent meeting with the eastern section of the Las Olas Mobility Plan, the Character Isle neighborhoods, and we are ready to move forward with the next steps for the design firm. It was also good to attend the 4th Annual Riverwalk Tribute, honoring people that just always give back to the community. Monday, May 8th, Solid Waste Working Group. We will be bringing back to the commission on June 6th that ILA that had to be reworked because the county made some last-minute changes to the ILA that originally went out to the cities. That's why it did not come before you this evening. Thursday, May 11th, I had the pleasure of meeting with the Downtown Development Authority, and we had an excellent meeting. A lot of good questions, a lot of good feedback. That afternoon, attended the Visit Lauderdale We Shine tourism event. It was so good to see so many of the folks from District 2 Barrier Island businesses that have really made a really good comeback since COVID. So very pleased to support those folks as well. Monday, May 15th, Progressive Village Civic Association meeting. Coming up, we've got Flagler Village on the 17th. On the 19th, Salute to Leadership for the 7 on 7th project of the Signature Grand. 24th, Middle River Civic Association meeting. On the 20th, the Dolphin Democrats' 41st Anniversary Gala. Also on Saturday, May 27th, the Great American Beach Party, Walk of Fame induction ceremony. And then on May 26th and 27th, the world returns to Fort Lauderdale for the World Aquatics High Diving Championship. So
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal, Mayor. You're 100% correct. It is a big deal.
It's the first time, it's actually the first major event at our diving center, and it's an international event, and they've chosen Fort Lauderdale for the venue, so it's going to be televised. It's going to be really a major thing. We
It's
invite
the World
everybody to
Cup,
come out.
and we got it because Cairo, Egypt backed out, and we just stepped in and nabbed it. So that was terrific.
You're coming to Cairo, right?
Yes, ironic. A couple of points. City manager, I had a lot of questions asked of me. I know there was a meeting recently about a hospital facility near the Beach Community Center. It's only about a block and a half from my district, so I did get a lot of questions about that. And I went back because that area rang a bell to me, and I just want to know where that project is now. I'm not exactly sure the genesis of that project, but I do know that on July 5th, 2022, the City Commission approved a park on that site. So I'm not sure why that didn't move forward. I'm not sure why it got sidetracked, and we ended up having a meeting about this. So if you can just bring some clarity to me about where that hospital project is, why did we just bypass the fact that the commission approved a park on that site a year ago? If you could just help me understand that.
So, Commissioner Glassman, I think that's probably better directed towards me since this is my district and that was my meeting. So I appreciate your interest and concerns and things that go on in District 1, so thank you.
Well, it is a block and a half from District 2, and the Barrier Island has a lot of District 2 residents. They were concerned, so they asked. But go ahead, I'm curious as to why we are giving up the park.
So, Commissioner, you will remember that I brought this to the attention of the Commission several meetings back, and in fact, everybody on the dais was very enthusiastic about the idea, I believe yourself included. So we reached out to the community to gauge their feelings about the idea of having an opportunity to bring a medical facility back to the beach, since we haven't had one since Cleveland Clinic closed in 2001, which of course is where your building happens to be located today. So the community back at the time that Cleveland Clinic closed signed a petition, 10,000 residents as a matter of fact, to try and keep a medical facility on the Barrier Island. It was something that was a long-sought goal of the city as well as the residents out there. And so I had an opportunity in dialogue with the CEO from Broward Health to propose a repurposing of the land that's out there to something that may have been a better amenity for the folks at the beach. And we wanted to discuss that project with the residents out there and engage their feedback. So that was the genesis of the conversation, and that's why I had a meeting in my district to talk to my residents.
Thank you. And how did it go?
It was a very robust conversation, and everybody was very engaged.
And how did it go?
Well, so wait, what is?
Well, I want to know why we're negating the fact that the commission voted to have a park on that exact site. Now, what Commissioner Herbst just said about the Cleveland Clinic was like 15, 16 years ago. So I don't know if the public input from 16 years ago was still relevant enough to move forward, bypass the fact that the commission voted for a park on the site.
Well, I think to answer your first question, what is the genesis of this? The genesis of it was Broward Health approached the city indicating its interest in helping the city try to find a location for a medical center on the barrier island because it had been displaced by new construction, which I believe is where you live now. And so Commissioner Herbst began to entertain a discussion regarding a location in his district, but not that it should be exclusive to that district or to that location, but it began the conversation to find a site for it. So, it still is unclear as to where that site could be. It could be in your district. It could be, in District 4. It depends on, where along the barrier island we can find a location for it. But with regard to your question as to whether or not we are negating the vote of the commission to put a park there, I think that was just an expression of intent. I don't think we voted it as parkland. I think the city manager at the time was charged with exploring the possibility of a park, but it continues the discussion as to what we want to do at that site. Right now, it's a parking lot, right? And I don't know whether it should stay as a parking lot, it should be a park, whether it should be a hospital, but right now, we're still entertaining the conversation.
Well, Mayor, when I read this CAM from July 5th, 2022, public hearing and adoption of resolution approving Parks, Recreation, and Beaches Advisory Board's recommendation for approval of lighting project, George Inglis Tennis Center, and Beach Community Center Rooftop Park. And then it goes into a lot of detail. I believe it's the same site that we're talking about in terms of a hospital facility, but it actually says, it gives all the background as it normally does, and then it actually talks about the fact that from the park bond, we're going to develop that project there. So it looks.
I don't think it was definitive. I think you can't just stick a green space on top of a building. The feasibility had to be explored. And I think, I don't think it went past that.
I think it was approved. Can we just get some clarity here?
Yeah, if I may. So what you were adopting right there is the recommendation from the Parks Advisory Board. And there's a rendering under that item, under Exhibit 4, that shows how that park would be adjacent to the Beach Community Center. Mr. Phil Thornburg is prepared to discuss what has transpired since then.
So you're right, Commissioner. So this was a little different than our typical process because if you think back, there was some discussion on what was going to happen there. We started out with some thoughts, and then we went to there was going to be some pickleball courts on top of the rooftop. So when we went back to the community again and had some discussions, the decision was then to go for more of the passive parking and get rid of the pickleball courts. So at the time, the thought was just kind of like what we talked about earlier, was to bring that to the commission to kind of, I guess, codify the decision that was the direction we were going to go, not the pickleball courts, but the park. So that's a little different than most everything else we're doing because we're still in the kind of the conceptual phase, and we'll be bringing things to you as we build the parks. But in this case, it was more to discuss and get on record what the direction we were going to go for that area. So I would say since then there was some discussion and so there's still money for the park. There's still the money still in the bond. And the money's been spent. There's $3.5 million for that. So Since that time, AECom has been working on it, and then when the hospital idea came up, there was some discussion about possibly taking down the current community center and incorporating that into the hospital, or into the emergency facility, and also maybe a portion of the rooftop of that being part of the park. So it kind of was put on hold to have that discussion on whether a different type of design might take place. And then we had the meeting the other night that the commissioner mentioned to kind of get more input on the direction at this point.
So where is that project right now?
So
From the input.
we are proceeding with the park. AECom is proceeding with the design of the park on the conceptual design of the park.
So
we have not gotten direction to go in a different direction.
So the hospital facility is not on the table anymore.
I can't address that. I'm just saying
So,
that.
Commissioner, again, allow me to interject. I am going back and having a conversation with board members from the hospital district as well as with their CEO. They were there. They certainly heard the feedback from the community, but I hesitate to say that anything is off the table until I've had an opportunity to meet with the hospital district and have that conversation with them. I think it's only fit and proper to include our partners in the community. That includes the residents, it includes the businesses, and it also includes the Broward Hospital District as part of that conversation. So again, I would ask you, please respectfully, to let me run my district as you run your district.
Well, I don't run my district, so
Yes,
I
you
don't
do,
know
sir.
if you
Yes,
feel
you
like
do.
you run your district.
You take great offense
No, I wouldn't
when
use
anybody
that.
asks anything about any of the projects in your district. You're very territorial, and I
No,
respect that.
I don't-
And I would appreciate if you would show some deference to the things that I am trying to bring to my district. I really don't need your input or your assistance in helping me figure out what the residents of my district need. Thank you, but it's not appreciated.
Well, a hospital facility on the Barrier Island is not exclusive to, quote, your district, whether you run it or not. I would just remind you that the Barrier Island crosses over 3 districts, District 1, District 2, District 4. So if we're going to talk about a hospital facility, which is a very important decision and discussion, I think it needs to be done a little bit better than this has been handled, because all of the feedback that I got from my district, and actually folks from your district as well, didn't understand how this all of a sudden came upon them. And I would just say that as a city, we should be a little bit more respectful of all of the folks within the city when it comes to making a decision this way. This sort of just came upon us because I guess at one meeting you told us that you're working with Broward Health and you're bringing this facility, and I read your whatever, that flyer or that email saying, you know, I care so much about District 1 residents' health and whatever. But, you know, I just think that we need to do things in a way that it doesn't stir people up. It doesn't get them thinking, oh my God, what's going on here? Why don't we know what's happening? Why don't we have the details?
That's the purpose of the public meeting, sir.
Well-
How do you engage the community unless you have a meeting and you talk to them and present them with a concept?
Because
I don't understand how you would get there.
Because you do the hard work. You don't just call a town hall and say, here's the city manager, let's boo him. Here's the fire chief, let's boo him. Here's the department director for transportation and mobility, let's boo him. You go ahead and you do the homework and you meet with folks one-on-one and you really gauge what people want. I'm sure you understand that is an engaging process. Yes, it's time consuming, but you have to put in the work. You can't just spring upon people.
And thank you, but I did have meetings with my Gulf Ocean Mile Association, talked with them several times about this, got their feedback at every one of the meetings that I attended where we discussed this project. They were all very enthusiastic at the time, hence the desire to bring it forward for a larger community discussion, because not every building up in my district is a member of the Gulf Ocean Mile Association.
But that's
So
not what
they don't all have association membership. So I talked to the association. We socialized this concept amongst them. The feedback at every one of the meetings was overwhelmingly positive, and therefore we move forward to the next step, which is engaging those other residents who are not members of the Gulf Ocean Mile Association. That is how I proceeded.
And I believe the Gulf Ocean Mile came out vehemently opposed to this concept.
They did. At the very last minute, they changed their mind.
Then there's a disconnect there. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to belabor it. I'm just saying that I think we deserve, as a commission, we deserve a courtesy of knowing when a major project like this is going to be moving forward, we have to all understand the ramifications of it. And I would just ask the city manager, if you know of something that's coming that might impact other folks or other districts, just give us a heads up so we can be a little bit involved and know a little bit about it. I don't look at the Barrier Island as just this district, this district, this district. It's the Barrier Island. And as I said, it's 3 districts. And a medical facility on the Barrier Island is a very important concept. I just think that homework needs to be done better. That's all. I'm going to continue on now with my report and questions. So thank you, Mayor. Next question. So that's still on the table then, the hospital, I guess? And we don't know what the park's.
First of all, it's not a hospital.
I understand. Hospital facility.
A medical facility.
Medical facility. I'm sorry.
And
I'm sorry. I have a problem with what was just said. I don't understand why what a commissioner is doing in his city has anything to do with the other districts. I hear what you're saying, but I think that that's out of order. I don't think that's appropriate. If a commissioner is doing business, bringing an opportunity to his constituents that will that will give benefit to the city, I believe that they have a right to present it and see how it flows. I don't think they need to vet the rest of us. There's things that have gone on that I'm aware of that I wasn't vetted. I don't agree with that. I think that's definitely out of order.
Okay, well, and of course you're entitled to that opinion. I would just disagree. I don't think it's out of order. I just think it affects the whole Barrier Island because there are no facilities like that on the Barrier Island. But that's okay. I mean, I'm bringing forth information that I've been hearing from my constituents on the Barrier Island that want to know why they didn't know what's going on. And they asked me about it. I said, you know what? I'm really not in the loop. I apologize, because I don't know what's going on. So that's okay, but everyone's entitled to their opinion. And I'll move on. Thank you. Okay. My next topic, so I want to talk about the Charter Revision Board. I've been reading the minutes. I've been following what's been going on with the Charter Revision Board. I know that we reconvened the Charter Revision Board, and City Attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, but we did present an entire list of items that we wanted to be considered by the Charter Revision Board. In my reading of the minutes, since they did have their first meeting back in February, I'm not seeing anything that the City Commission has brought forward as items for the Charter Revision Board to discuss. What I am seeing is a lot of criticism as the pre-November 2022 Commission, questioning behaviors, questioning legality of actions of that commission, and then even the most recent meeting, bringing in the county attorney to talk about our city ethics as a city commission. So I'm like reading all of these minutes and I'm saying, what is going on here? I really don't understand. I'm reading things like where a chair of the board will say, this is an independent board and we can do whatever we want. So city attorney, is this an independent board that can do whatever it wants? Or do we have any say? Can you just help me understand our role in relation to the Charter Revision Board?
So the Charter Revision Board, like any other city advisory board, is an advisory arm to the City Commission and is charged with providing advice to the City Commission on the propriety of the existing charter and further to make suggestions and recommendations to perfect the charter.
So it's an advisory board.
Right, it's not an independent board.
It's not an independent board.
No, it's
so that information in the minutes is incorrect. Okay, so help me understand. I don't know, have you been able to read any of the minutes or the transcripts or what actually has been said at all of these meetings?
I have not.
You have not. I would just ask that you do. I could share the information with you. I know that I have a transcript from the first meeting, and I also have all of the minutes, but I'm sure you can get that as well. Again, I just find that I'm having a level of concern with the items that we brought forward. Everybody wants a better government. Everybody wants a commission that functions as well as it possibly can. But I'm getting a sense that there are other agendas at foot with the Charter Revision Board, and I just think that we need to pay attention to that. And again, I'd like to know where the items are that we have passed on to them, because I'm just finding a lot of what I'm reading to be concerning, and that's enough for the Charter Revision Board.
Before we move from that, for clarity, could I have a definition for advisory board versus independent board? What is this conversation? I don't.
So I'm not aware of having an independent board besides maybe the Cemetery Board of Trustees. So our Code of Ordinance provides a definition for city boards, and Section 2, give me a moment. In Section 2-216.
Okay, and that would give that gives the definition for.
It gives it a definition of advisory board. It means a board established by the city commission with the responsibility of providing advice and recommendations to the city commission on particular subject matters or issues. And then with regards to the Charter Revision Board, it's established in the Code of Ordinance, and Section 2-231 provides its purpose, which is to advise the city commission on the propriety of the existing charter, and further to make such suggestions and recommendations to perfect the charter so as to establish a better government of and for the city.
Okay. So with that being defined, does that mean that the revision board only works in the scope of what this commission tells them, or are they looking overall at the charter to review and maybe recommend changes where there is a issue? What is their?
They work within the scope of the purpose of the board and provide the advice to the city commission.
So again, does that limit them only to what was presented to them? Because Commissioner Glassman saying that we did give them a list of items to review. Are they boxed into that, or are they allowed with liberty to go through the charter and pick out things that's needed?
They are allowed to review all items within the purpose of the board. The next section of the ordinance, Section 2-232, does provide for their consideration of recommendations from the manager, auditor, city clerk, and city attorney to their board before any action is taken at the Charter Revision Board meetings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I certainly don't have any issues with the Charter Revision Board going way beyond what we asked them to look at. But what we did ask them to look at was a lot, because we did find that there was a lot of conflict with state statutes. We found that there were areas where we needed to get clarity. And plus, we gave them a very detailed list. I don't need to go through the whole list for everybody, because we all did receive it, but there is a good list there. But again, my main concern is that much of what I'm reading in the minutes and the transcripts are opinions that I don't want to be taken as fact. If you're going to say things like the commission pre-November 2022 acted illegally, and then list is a whole bunch of assumptions. I don't want that taken as fact. That to me is someone's opinion. So I get a little bit concerned when I read those kinds of comments in the minutes. That's all I'm saying. And I just think that we need to pay attention. And I would just ask the city attorney and the city manager to pay attention to what's happening in that board, and to make sure that what's happening is basically appropriate. That's all. And still getting the work done that we're hoping that they will get done, in addition to them going through the entire charter, which I think is perfectly acceptable. To me, again, it's just a matter of when opinions are being offered all the time that seem to be just debatable. That's all. Thank you. Number 4, city manager. I've been hearing a lot and following what's been going on with the bid for the Las Olas corridor design, the western portion. I know that ended in a tie. I just need to get some clarity on, what are we doing? I know that many people from the selection committee this past week were objecting to pressures that they felt to rescore, to try to break the tie. Why is this just not coming to the city commission so that we can make the decision and move forward on who to extend that bid to? The two firms, again, ending in a tie. I don't know why we are just beating a dead horse and asking staff to revisit, rescore. It doesn't make any sense to me. They obviously have done their work, and I think as a selection committee, their work being concluded, that should be traveling to the commission now to make the decision of who's going to be doing the Las Olas corridor design. So where are we?
Ms. Susan Grant, Assistant City Manager, will provide an update on that.
As I think you probably have been made aware, there were no provisions in the procurement code or the procurement manual that dealt with a tie as it relates to this specific type of procurement. I think there might have been something as it relates to a bid, but not to, I think this was an RFQ versus the other types of procurement. Given that they did reconvene the committee, the evaluation committee, and yes, I don't, hopefully no one felt pressured, although you indicated they did. No one wanted to rescore, so we are reconvening one more time with the two firms doing new presentations and rescoring at that point.
Okay, that just doesn't make any sense to me. They're rescoring another presentation. Are they looking for something different, or is it just one section of what they already did present?
I'm thinking it's the entire presentations being made again.
The entire presentation?
Yes.
So like a de novo presentation, like you're just starting from scratch with what they've already done? Why isn't this just coming to the commission to make a decision?
So the process for RFQ requires that the most qualified proposer is moved forward. In the case historically, is my understanding from procurement staff, is that in the case of a RFQ where their vote turns out to be a tie vote, that they would re-vote within the same session. That is what they attempted to do. I'm not certain. Well, I think Assistant City Manager Grant has kind of explained that process and how that came forward. The statute that we travel under requires a determination as to the highest qualified. It does allow the commission to move forward. Well, it does allow the entity to move forward with negotiations with that highest qualified person, and if they don't reach terms, then go to the next qualified proposer. There may be a way of viewing it as both being the most highest qualified and negotiating with both, but it becomes a questionable process. But if we are strictly complying with the statute, we'd have to enter into negotiation negotiations with the most highest qualified.
But if it's a stalemate, and they were
Correct.
both considered qualified, I mean, who breaks that stalemate?
Right, there's nothing that's provided in our procurement code or procurement manual for breaking ties and this type of procurement.
I happen to be strongly supportive of Commissioner Glassman's recommendation. I think this should be brought to us at the next, I thought it was going to be brought to us this meeting, as a matter of fact.
Actually, can I offer another suggestion? So typically, we would throw out all bids and start over again when we're in a situation
Typically
like
what?
this.
I didn't hear you.
What?
Typically what?
We would throw out all bids and we'd start over again. When we're in a situation like this, to go back and expect the two, bidders who have already seen their presentations and everything else now to kind of tweak that to come up with a different scoring mechanism
I think
seems
they-
inherently unfair. I think we're better off going back out to bid and starting the process from scratch in a way that's fair and open to everybody. We may bring in more people to put in a bid. We may get a better bid from one of the two or both. So I would say let's just go back out to bid, start from scratch again,
So,
rather than trying to achieve a different outcome with the same information.
so I think they kind of went through that process. Didn't they go back and revote? I mean, it wasn't just the first.
Well, I think revote is not the same as going back out to bid again, so go back.
No,
out to-
you're right.
Yeah,
It's
put
true.
the whole thing out, and we open it up, we start from scratch.
So what they did,
Mayor,
I'm sorry.
Well, we're approaching your 10 p.m. deadline with regards to.
Do we need a motion to extend?
Yeah.
God, we haven't done that in ages.
procedurally.
Do I hear a
know-
motion to extend the meeting?
Do we have to go back to the regular meeting to make a motion to extend
Yes.
the meeting? Okay, so we have to close the conference meeting, go back to the regular meeting, which we've already ended, so we can't go back to that now, can we? So how do we do that, City Attorney?
All right, first of all, do I hear a motion to reopen the evening meeting?
Are we allowed to do that?
Yes, we're allowed to do that.
Can we reopen a meeting that's been closed?
That's been adjourned already,
That's been adjourned.
and hasn't been noticed that we're reopening it.
Can we open the June 6th meeting early?
Well, wait a minute, let me just stop for a second. This is a conference meeting, it's not the meeting, it's just the workshop. So I don't think there was any provision where we had to conclude that at a certain time. It was always the evening meeting that we had to conclude by a certain time.
That's a good point.
I will accept the procedural. I know you don't take motions during conference, but with regards to a procedural motion, I will accept that as practice in this case.
So what, except what? You want me to
A
reopen the evening
motion
meeting?
to extend the meeting.
You want me to
in
do a
the
motion to
conference.
extend the conference meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to extend the conference meeting another 30 minutes? Will you be done within 30 minutes?
15, maybe?
No,
I'm going down. Come on.
I'll make a motion to extend till 10:30.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beasley Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman,
I'm going to abstain.
You can't abstain.
I don't think that we could do this.
You can't abstain.
I don't think that
abstain.
we could, we're not
Well,
voting.
then vote no.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend the
Okay,
whole
I'll
time
vote yes,
arguing
fine.
the motion.
Yes, fine, go.
Commissioner Herbst,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. Okay, continue. So the question is, what do we do with a deadlock recommendation? And Commissioner Herbst says we need to reject all bids and re-advertise it.
It's a recommendation.
Yeah,
Not that
I
we
get
have
it.
to, but I think it's a better way to go.
But I do believe that they voted twice, correct? Who was involved in that procurement? Susan, what happened there? Wasn't there it went back again? What were they charged with the second time?
Yeah, reconvened, and none of the members wanted to
They didn't
change their
mind.
votes.
Okay, but none of the procedure was changed in terms of new criteria.
No, we couldn't change the evaluation criteria or the weighting.
All right, so maybe we should take up Commissioner Herbst's suggestion and reject all bids and put it out again. Is that something that?
No, that's not, I'm
You
in
don't wanna do
favor.
that?
I want to move, my district wants to move on with this, and so do I. The business community, I mean, everybody wants to move on.
Well, how do we move on if
I
there's
think you
no-
bring it to the commission, like Commissioner Glassman says, and let us, just like present to us, and we'll be the tiebreaker. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Well, ultimately, we have to make that decision anyway, right?
Correct. And they did
Correct.
rescore on Friday, and they came up with a tie again.
So let's bring it to the next meeting.
It's two ties.
We'll present to us, we'll be the tiebreaker, and let's get this thing moving.
Exactly.
All right, Mr. City Manager, can
If
you?
that's the desire, we can do
Yeah,
that.
could you put that on the next?
We will put it on the June 6th.
The next feasible agenda?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so that's going to be June 6th.
Well, I don't know, is there enough time to advertise that and all that?
Well, it's
It should
3
be
weeks
10
away.
days. Yes, we skip a week.
Yeah, we do.
You have a 1 week break.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That's number 4. And my last topic that I'm going to talk about is, it's interesting that we had 2 state senators with us this evening. Mercifully, the Florida legislature has adjourned for this year's session, and and I know that sometimes people say, why do you bring this up at a city commission? We don't really have purview over these issues. And, but I just so strongly believe that we don't just live in a Fort Lauderdale bubble, that what happens in Tallahassee does impact greatly our residents in our city. And I'm going to tell you a little story that just happened, and it's a brief story, but it's going to lead into what I'm going to say.
You have a half hour.
Thank you. I mean, yesterday, I actually had a neighbor come up to me and say, Steve, I have a road trip plan to go through the state of Florida with my husband, and I want to know your opinion. I'm really concerned as a gay person about traveling through the state. What happens if, God forbid, I'm injured or there's a problem? And the governor just signed SB 1580 on May 11th that is called the Protection of Medical Conscience, and it allows physicians to not treat predominantly LGBTQ citizens based on their own beliefs, whatever that is. And I thought about it for a few seconds, and I said, this is a shocking question to be asked by a constituent. Should I feel safe in my own state to take a road trip and think, God forbid I'm injured and I need medical attention, and someone says, no, I'm not going to treat you because I have an issue with your life? So again, that made me think, and I found it chilling. And I went back and I looked at all of the legislation that has been passed for this session, and this session has been remarkable for its meanness. The session did not really address much of what the needs of the average Floridians are in terms of issues like property insurance, auto insurance. I could go on, but it seems to focus mostly on marginalizing already marginalized communities, erasing their human rights, dividing us in the name of freedom. The state has intruded into our personal lives like never before. Women should fear for their lives, as should minority communities, whether they be LGBTQ, African American, Asian, in particular. Unions, with the notable exception of first responders, have seen their protections stripped. Union busting is in fashion now in Florida. Medical care for transgender children? Nope. A doctor can be brought up on charges. A doctor can be criminalized for providing health care that a family decides is important for their child. A physician denying health care to LGBTQ citizens based on his or her beliefs, as I just mentioned in the story of a neighbor contacting me, no problem. Just call it protections of medical conscience, a very Orwellian name, as most of these bills have, Orwellian names, and you're good to go. Our state now prevents higher education from discussing diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. Not only are these items taboo in our state now, but funding for these initiatives has stopped. This government, our state government, has now become the expert and the end-all and be-all when it comes to education as well as medicine. A story just crossed the wires today. The state has notified a school in a county in Florida that the parents need to be known that their children will be interviewed. So the state sent a letter to the parents of the children in this particular school because an 8th grade teacher showed a Disney film that had a gay character in it.
Oh, it was a cartoon.
Whatever. I'm just saying, did you ever think that the state would contact parents and say, we're going to interview your children about a movie that they saw in their classroom that just happened this week? Books are banned. Textbooks are altered to even remove references to George Floyd, taking a knee, the Holocaust, Black Lives Matter, any discussion of social justice, institutional racism, mistreatment of minorities. In other words, critical thinking to prepare young people for the real world, not important. Whatever happened to the concept that free people should be free to read? Read everything. Don't ban anything. Read everything and then you make up your mind. You learn to think critically. You know, book banning has had a rough history in our world. And if you don't think that's true, and you don't think that what happens after book banning, just take a look at Germany in the 1930s and see what book banning led to at that particular time. In Florida, character lessons for children on how to be sensitive, how to be empathetic, or any element of social and emotional learning is now banned. These are practices that have been happening in the United States for decades because it's important to teach children how to be good people, how to respect their neighbors, how to respect children from other cultures. These are principles that have just always been accepted. But now Florida has said no. No to any kind of social and emotional learning. No to teaching children how to be empathetic to others around them. Gender identity, sexuality, you can no longer discuss that all the way through grade 12 in high school. Let's erase gay children. Let's erase gay teachers. That seems to be the goal. Make those people fear every day that they walk into their school that something bad can happen, and they don't have the ability to ask a question. They don't have the ability to talk about their own families. There are children that have two mothers. There are children that have two fathers, but they can never ask questions or discuss or talk about their own life or even find any kind of recognition for their life. They are made to feel ostracized. Guess what's made a comeback in Florida? Bathroom bans. We thought that was done at least a decade ago. But no, in Florida, that has made a comeback. Part of the state's obsession with transgender citizens. Another obsession is drag shows and drag queens. Keep children away from drag queens. Although we don't want to find solutions for the real threat to children, which are guns. The number one cause of death in the United States for children is guns, not drag queens. But we're going to worry about keeping children away from drag queens. But guess what? Florida has no problem with criminalizing women and criminalizing doctors. The stories that are out there of women whose lives have been on the line because they could not get medical attention for a pregnancy gone wrong are horrifying, horrifying. So yes, this session has ended in Tallahassee, and it's not surprising why Florida is now known across the nation and the world as the state of hate. It's disappointing, and I just wanted to express those beliefs because I'm hearing more and more from people that are telling me that they're seriously thinking of leaving Fort Lauderdale and thinking of leaving Florida. That to me is tremendously sad, and I'm really hoping that they don't, and I'm hoping that they speak out, and that's exactly why I am speaking out. Thank you, Mayor. I'm done.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sturman.
Okay, real quick, just two quick things, and they both, and then we could get out of here. Number one is they've already said the two things. I'm very pleased that we're going to be honoring the Panthers. I was going to bring that up, but it was taken. And number two, Steve, thanks for bringing up the Las Olas and design and engineer. I was going to bring that up also. So both of my things were mentioned. Nothing else for me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Sturman. So, really wasn't expecting to speak on this, but I'm glad you brought this up, Commissioner Glassman. It is very offensive, the things that were passed at Tallahassee. There's no action we'll take here in the commission, but you know, it is fearful to know that lives and property and free will have been abridged in our state, and it's across the board. And but that makes me feel more resolved to continue to fight against that, continue to fight against the ignorance, to stay in Florida, to be part of the effort to make change, and to continue to be a leader in a community that that rejects that thinking. And I think it's very important that we maintain our roles and maintain our dignity and maintain our responsibility to ensure that we do protect the people in our community from not just gun violence, but from hate and from discrimination. And that's why you're a commissioner, and that's why I'm a mayor, and that's why people are here to look up to you, to know that you are going to continue to stand and protect their rights.
Do you remember when government and elected officials used to try and uplift people? Uplift people.
Well, that's what you're here for.
Okay.
All right. So I have a whole list of things, but it's getting late. I just want to talk about a couple of very important things coming up. It's this Memorial Day, the 29th. Please, we are having the Lauderdale Memorial Ceremony. That's at Lauderdale Memorial Cemetery at 9 a.m. on Memorial Day. I invite everybody in the community to attend, please, to honor the fallen who have protected our country, and to honor all troops who are in the armed forces. It's a very important day for our community and for our country, and I hope that everyone can attend. I hope that everyone on the commission will find time in their day. Also, that same day at 11 a.m. at the Sandy Ninninger statue, we have another ceremony with local American Legion posts, and again, a very important tribute to those who have served our country, in particular Sandy Ninninger, who lived in Fort Lauderdale and who died on behalf of saving his country. I also want to reiterate the Great American Beach Party is at the 27th, that Saturday before Memorial Day at 1 p.m. at Oceanside Park. And Mr. City Manager, who's the featured, do we have a featured entertainment yet?
Phil?
Can we know now? Can we know now? I know there was there was some type of disclosure where they couldn't be.
Is it
the 4th of July? We can disclose now. The 4th of July.
Well,
he's talking about Memorial Day. Yeah.
Please come. Okay, local talent.
Yeah.
Who's 4th of July?
We have the distinct pleasure of having Flo Rida present and the entertainment venue for us at the 4th of July. We're very excited
cool.
about that.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, you'll be up there. We'll be up there dancing together. Okay. All right, thank you for that. Okay.
Mayor, I don't really dance, so.
Oh, come on. All right, a couple of, I think last meeting, I had asked the commission if it would be okay if I entered into the Southeast Climate Action Pledge. I believe everyone was given a copy of that. I hope you've all had an opportunity to read it. I'd like to be able to go ahead and be a part of the Southeast Climate Action Pledge. Is there any objection? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, we are bringing an item forward for you all to review with thoroughness at the next commission meeting.
Oh, it's going to be at the next commission meeting?
Yeah, and there is no time constraint on that right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Did we get a copy?
Yeah, I forwarded it out,
Okay. Thank
I
you.
think last week.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can resend it if you want. Okay.
Okay. And with that being said, I have nothing further, so I hand the floor over to the city manager. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioner. So just wanted to give an update on the city attorney search.
Yes, sir.
A variety of vendors that reviewed our request said a couple of things. They were consistent on saying that
These are search firms, right?
these are the search firms. Yeah, they were consistent in saying that the amount of candidates that we received so far is adequate, and that some said that they don't feel that they would be able to get any more.
It's not the question of quantity, it's the question of quality.
Correct. They also mentioned, and this is another important point, because as you know, you all formed a committee that will assist with this process. However, some of the firms that were available to assist said that they would like to work independently with the contract and present some candidates for the Citizens Committee to review, but not to be involved throughout that process or to do partial work. They'd like to be comprehensive and provide names thereafter with resumes of qualified candidates. So if you all agree to that process, because again, you all formed the Citizens Committee, we want to respect that, then we can get some search firms underway.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I think it makes sense to let the search firm come up with names and with qualified candidates and then present it to the advisory board and then let them bring it to the commission. That seems like an appropriate process.
I was under the impression that was the.
Yeah, I thought so too.
That was the.
I thought that was the process.
Right, but
I thought that was the process.
Yeah.
So we are going to follow that process, and we'll be bringing a firm with names. But again, first have the Citizens Committee be part of that before we bring those names to you.
Okay. All right.
Any timeline on all of this, City Manager?
We just wanted to get this clarity. We expect to have anything from 30 to 60 days in front of you. We'd like to move fast.
Mr. Spence is
We
saying
understand.
30 to 60 days. Are you kidding?
Are you kidding me? Really?
Can't stand this one more day.
And please, no ties.
Well, it is what it is. Okay. Anything further?
No,
That's
nothing
it?
further.
Do you have any report, Mr. Spence?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. Is there any further business at the City Commission conference meeting? There being none, that concludes. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.